Okay. Welcome, everybody, to another Screaming Into the Void podcast. This is Martin Productions and Steve Para Photography. We will be talking about a variety of topics today, but the main topic we'll be talking on is the romanticizing of depression in the world, which that essentially means, sure.
Which mostly I would say in first world society, or at least in Western culture, because that's where it seems to be most prevalent.
So it's more or less the romanticizing of depression is like people with no real psychological issues or problems will be claiming they're diagnosed with depression or anxiety because it's quote unquote a trendy thing to do. That's kind of the whole gist of what we're going for.
That, and not necessarily they want to do it because it's trendy or they want to do it because it's, something to do, but mostly just because they're overreacting to a very simple problem. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of the people that I would say have this issue are people who've never really faced any kind of true adversity in life. So now that when they finally hit that wall, they don't know how to handle themselves because, think about it. Life in our society has never been, well, not necessarily easier, but it's nice. It's cushy. A lot of people that I would say have this problem have never faced any true issue in life. So once they finally hit that wall, they're like, life is so hard. It's not being handed to me, or not saying it's rude, or I don't know how to handle this situation because, it's not just being taken care of itself, or no one's helping me, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a little bit of both.
It definitely is. People will use just about anything to any potentially almost bad thing happening to them to say, oh, I'm depressed, or oh, I have anxiety, or oh, I have this. They use it almost as a scapegoat rather than there's something that I need to get professional help for, or I can't function if I do something like this.
Right. And I think that's one thing that I've always tried to preach to people is that venting to your friends, venting to your family is a good thing. However, realistically, it's no substitute for professional help, especially when, for most people, it is available to them. If you can get it, you should do it. Because a lot of people I've talked to have said, I'm beyond help, or, therapy can't help me. If you're not making the effort to try and get better, then you can't claim you have a problem when you're not actively trying to fix it, when you know that you can, or at least try.
Right. Yeah, that's another, big, from what I've seen, that's a very big trigger to say you really don't have a problem when you think they have this problem and you immediately become a good supportive friend and go and say, hey, you should get help. And they're like, no, I can't have help. I'm beyond help. It doesn't make sense. Not everyone can afford the professional help.
We
yes
said
and
that.
no.
We said that. We mentioned that this is about people who know they can, or at least can make the effort to, but refuse to.
Right.
This isn't about people who can afford it. We're talking about people who know they can, but refuse.
Right. And besides, on that point, just real quick, there are many, 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 many different websites, phone lines you can call that don't charge you a dime, and you can just vent and ask questions, things like that. That's kind of the idea that people you give them, they say, oh, I want to die. You give them the suicide hotline, and they say, oh, you're overreacting. And it's like, you just said you wanted to die. I understand there's what's the it's almost comedic how a lot of people have this I can't think of what
I think I kind of know what you're getting at. So it's weird, not so weird, but funny to a degree, not because they say these things, but because they say these things, I want to die, I want this, I want that, and then when an opportunity presents themselves to fix the problem, they're like, nope, can't do it. It's odd more than anything else. We're not making fun of people for saying stuff like that. It's just, how can you actively know you have a problem, be offered a free solution, or at least an attempt to find a solution, and absolutely refuse it?
Right. It shows that you're using this problem that you claim to have more as a scapegoat, that you want to be treated specially, but you don't want to put in the effort to solve it so that you can't use it as a scapegoat for your own minute first world problems.
Well, this is the thing, Yue. You're kind of putting words in our mouth here. We're not making suggestions for everyone. This isn't a blanket coverage topic. This is on a case-by-case basis labeled to specific kinds of people. I have said before that things like this, you should never put blanket coverage on. I tried to not do that. I tried to not generalize. We're talking about specific people that my friend and I have come across that we know that they're in an odd situation and still refuse to find the help even though they know that they can. And I still believe that at the end of the day, still, relatively, it is still your problem to fix, truly, because only you can fix your problems. This is coming from someone who's been dealing with depression for a very long time and has been on all kinds of medication to try and fix it. As much as it does suck, the only person who can pull you out of anything at the end of the day truly is yourself. And some people can't. They really can't, and it sucks. I mean, some people, it gets the better of them. And there's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with that. People who say you're weak if you let it get the better of you, know you're not. You tried. That's all that matters. Some people can't. My point is, we're not trying to actually say everyone should do this, everyone should do that, because that goes against everything that I personally stand for. This is mostly labeling a select few individual people that annoy us individually, because there are people that me and him have tried to help religiously and we get refused, but they still complain that either A, no one wants to help them, which is not true, or B, they think they have no options when they do. So it's kind of most of the people that were friends with us or maybe still are, that kind of throw us to the side after we do everything we can to help them and then preach on that they still have no one for them or no one to help them, when it's a slap in the face is what we're getting at. Sorry to go on the rant there, Steve.
No problem, no problem.
Is there anything you wanted to add to that, though? So I know that I'm not trying to sound rude. It's just that I understand your point. It's just not who we're talking about.
Right. We're not trying to target anybody with this, but we are.
Well, we are and we
trying
are.
to be. We are, but we are. We're not aggressively targeting somebody for the point of being malicious, but we're making a point about a certain group of people that need to realize they can't use this as their scapegoat.
Yeah. And it does, and again, it's terrible to think, because I still believe that some people really do try their hardest to get out of these situations and they just don't know how. For some people that are too overanalytical for their own good, they try to think of the every angle they can to get out of situations like this, and it absolutely refuses them from going nowhere. They calculate every step, so they never end up taking one. That's kind of how I am. So I understand that point too, that some people are trying, you just can't see it because physically nothing is happening.
Right.
So I understand that too, that sometimes it doesn't seem like anything's happening, but mentally it can be challenging as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not necessarily trying to label that. It's more or less the idea of, we're talking about why it's becoming so common in culture, or at least our specific culture. And I think it goes back, honestly, not necessarily to social media, because that can be a blame for a lot of things, but it'd be wrong to say it doesn't play a part, because now everyone has open access to basically compare themselves to everybody else, which isn't healthy for anybody to do. I mean, think of it this way. When you watch other YouTubers' videos, like you watch car YouTubers a lot, right? So when you watch guys who have really nice rides, really pretty girlfriends, all this other stuff, are you going to sit there and tell me that you're not jealous?
It's not that I'm jealous. I think it's more that I'm envious, that I wish I could have the same opportunities that they do, so that way I can get what they have as well as them.
And envy, too.
If it was if it was about me instead of them, I wouldn't want to take that away from them.
No, of course not. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying we should take away these opportunities to get everyone on the even playing field. That's communism, and we all know how I feel about that. That's not the topic.
Yeah.
But my point is just, it's, when you see, for me, it's like watching like really big gaming channels or really big commentary channels, people who I think, and went on a big tangent about this in my stream last night, who I think make, honestly, really terrible content that don't deserve anything that they have, but they have it. So, that's also another thing, too, is that finding people who aren't worth what they got, but still have it. Yep. And who you genuinely think tries their hardest, or other people who do, and they don't have it because they're not going to use the same tactics or ideals of that same person because of some moral ground that they have, or just they don't have the opportunities at hand. Whatever it may or may not be.
Right.
Also, just a future suggestion, if you guys have any kind comments or suggestions on future gameplay you'd like to stare at for a few hours, just let me know. Right now I'm kind of just playing whatever I want. That's why you're watching Overwatch at the moment. But if there's anything you'd want to see, just let me know. I can definitely give it a try. Although I'm not going to go out of my way to buy multiple video games just for one playthrough on a podcast, so keep that in mind too. Unless I can get them free for a few hours.
Yeah. One of my big issues with the whole romanticizing of depression is that it starts to invalidate the people that actually have the problems, like yourself, where you go and say, hey, I'm not feeling good today, or you make a tweet saying, I'm not feeling good today, and people will step on that and be like, well, I don't feel good every day either, so why are you special? And that people will try to make them number one in everyone's, make that themselves number one in everyone else's story.
Yeah. And that's something that's always kind of aggravated me too. Is now it doesn't happen to me a lot, and I try my best not to do it to people. And if I bring out my personal problems in life to somebody, it's not necessarily a sick of comparison saying I have it much harder. It's like, I've been through this, so I understand your point. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying I get you. I relate to you. However, there are people who are like, well, I've been through this, so whatever you're feeling is invalid. Which is honestly terrible. It's like a picture that I saw of like, there's like two wolves, right? One's a baby, one's an adult. One has one arrow in its back and it's dead. The other one has like 20, but it's still standing. And the caption is, pain is relative. What kills you may not kill somebody else, or vice versa. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or just because you can handle it doesn't mean everybody else can.
Right.
So I think that's something to keep in mind too.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of context with that specific image you just mentioned, where one image will say what'll kill you won't kill somebody else, or what I went through when I was younger help make me stronger for the person I am today, and that's some of the context I've seen with that though. But
yeah, I think people, they take these pictures, memes, whatever you want to call it, and change them for their narrative. Kind of goes back into the other topic we were going to talk about today, that deep fake nonsense that we were mentioning.
Yeah.
But that's in a little bit. But still, though, I mean, it's a good picture just for this topic right now. Mm-hmm. At least in my opinion.
I'd say so, yeah. Because it gives a very simple visual, and it helps really visualize what people are trying to explain. But the problem is that people will see this image, post it when they have no reason to post it.
Yes and no, I'd say, because it's also hard to know what someone's been through in their entire life. But I mean, I agree. There are some people where you're like, but I don't understand your struggle. But it's hard to pass judgment when you haven't been in one person's shoes. But some people just make that a chore because they find themselves to be so toxic to be around. Like, I'm not gonna, like, for example, if you're always acting like an honest, rude person, we'll just say, if you're always acting that way, and then you're turning around and saying, but my life is so hard, it's hard to want to relate to you or to find your struggles in life and want to help you when that's your attitude. As much as it's terrible, you can't be using your life being hard as an excuse to treat other people like crap. That's not how that works.
Another thing that I know this comes more under the fake front of depression and anxiety, where, as we were mentioning, we were talking about YouTubers that have all these fancy cars. They've got all these people telling them how much they love him. They've got 1,400 different fan pages on Instagram or Twitter dedicated to this one person. And it almost, when they complain about something, their fans will freak out and be like, why are you complaining? You have no reason to complain. And that comes back to my point of sometimes the whole romanticizing depression and like putting on a front really hurts the people that actually do struggle with issues like this.
Yeah, they do. And on your comment, putting in our heads that we don't exist to be happy, I agree. I do. I don't think we exist to be happy. However, that is a very, very hard concept for most of humanity to swallow, because everyone wants to think that we should be happy in some way, but it's just not true. But, just because few people can accept that doesn't mean everybody will. I mean, again, I agree. It doesn't mean that it's not something that everyone's willing to face, though. I mean,
I'm gonna go on.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go on a little tangent about that comment. Just I think that comment would be better if we put in our heads that we do not exist to be happy. I think happiness is relative.
Definitely
So
subjective.
saying someone, right, it's definitely subjective and happy, but what really, I think that would be better off if it was we do not exist with a purpose, because happiness is subjective. A purpose is a final thing that we're on earth to do, whereas people don't find that. People don't see that. Some people do, so on and so forth. But if you put it in the context of happiness, what, like, one man's trash is another man's treasure type of deal. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
And we're not saying those YouTubers don't suffer, by the way. It's more or less just putting the cover on as to, again, a lot of them, the way they act makes it hard to want to relate to them to find out what their problems are because of how they act. Again, when you act a certain way, you're not going to want anyone to, no one's going to want to be around you because you've put up a front of whatever personality is you carry. Yeah, arrogance. Arrogance is not an excuse for suffering. It doesn't matter who you are. It's not an excuse.
Yeah. I'll take it back to last week's podcast when we were mentioning Logan Paul.
Yeah.
How
They're
he
the
went
poster
and
boys for this argument.
Right. He blatantly disrespected a culture, and when he went and did that, it was just plain disrespectful. And so when he got called on his shit and he got really like he got put down a couple pegs by society as a whole, and then he wants people to feel sorry for him because he's like, "Oh, I messed up. I'm sorry." But when you have that level of arrogance and disrespect to other humans and other people, it's hard to find. Right, up until that point, it's hard to say, "Oh, we should forgive him and move on."
It's hard to find that common ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, so the thing is just, I would say that a lot of what he got probably wasn't that deserved. I would say that ignorance is bliss and that he's honestly just stupid and he didn't know better. And a lot of what he got probably was a little overboard. I guarantee he probably got a lot of really malicious stuff, and there's no excuse for that either. But yeah, when you do things like that and put up a wall of arrogance prior to things like that, you can't expect people to want to relate to you or your problems when you also have a history of, well, for lack of a better term, quote-unquote flexing on people.
Mm-hmm. Logan disrespected Japanese culture when he went to
the suicide
Japan,
forest and filmed the dead
suicide
body.
Forest, filmed the dead body. He was walking around the forest. He was walking around the city of Tokyo and screaming in people's faces, causing a ruckus, messing with people. He was just being overall disrespectful. Like, if he did that in America, he'd probably just get his ass kicked, but the Japanese culture doesn't really permit that.
Not really. He filmed a dead body, laughed at it, and then tried to have everyone else laugh at it in his viewership to try and get like, hey guys, it was funny, right? Guys, it was funny, right? No, it wasn't.
Yep.
And then, he was also going around to the actual parts of Tokyo being incredibly disrespectful, throwing things at people. He threw money at a religious sermon, and then he literally, this is a quote he said, "What do you wish for? I wish for happiness in life and hella bitches," and then threw change at people. I'm sorry, but you when you act like that, I find it incredibly hard to want to relate to you in any way. Now, granted, I can't. On one front, possibly being a YouTuber, I get how draining mentally YouTube can be. There's a reason why I don't upload very much. There's a very good reason for it. But at the same time, when your channel is based around vlogging, flexing wealth, and just being a general nuisance to society, I'm not going to go out of my way to want to listen to you. Again, I guarantee it's a front to some degree, but at the same time, just because it's an odd gray area where I get paid to do it, so therefore it's acceptable. Not really. No. I mean, yeah, I guess he's a paid YouTuber to do what he does. But would you say that getting paid for something is a good argument for it, Steve?
I would say no. If you have common sense and dignity, you'll know that money is not worth losing respect for people. It goes back to Warren Buffett's quote, "It takes years to build up a reputation and about 10 seconds to ruin it."
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And when you think of it that way, you'll start doing things differently. And he hasn't learned that yet because he still has people backing up what he did and like vouching for him, essentially.
And that's the thing when you say you agree with us on Logan Paul. It's people like him that this overall topic is about. That's the point. That's what we're trying to get at here. we're trying to say that we know this is a gray area and we're not trying to label everyone or even a select group of people. It's more or less what we actually are. I'll backtrack that. We are, but not to the extent that you're thinking. I, of all people, totally understand this area to an extent of how it affects people and how there's a lot that goes into these kind of situations, whether it be environmental things, work, personal hobbies, a whole bunch of nonsense. And I don't know them personally, so I can't really speak for them. But when the entire world is against you and people that were close to you have every reason to dislike you, it doesn't give anyone the drive to want to get to know you when people who did have said bad things about you. You know what I mean? Like, if no one else wants to be around you, why should I?
Right.
So that's kind of my point here, is that we're not trying to blanket coverage, but at the same time, you kind of have to if you want to discuss the topic, because like in politics, in order to get anything done, you have to either do something in total to aggravate one group or the other group. That's how politics work. You can't make a bill or write something specific that'll make everybody happy. It won't happen, because you can't write laws like that. I would always said that politics work better on a case-by-case basis, but then nothing would ever get done, because then you have to take everything by a case-by-case basis, and it wouldn't work efficiently at all. So, again, that's kind of why it has to be this way.
Yeah. I mean, that's about it. But one of the big issues I feel like with the romanticizing of depression and anxiety, media, music, things like that, where you have hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of artists that are writing songs that help people with these issues truly get past their problems, and it's a vent for them. And you have people that have first world problems where they don't have the newest iPhone, or their mom grounded them for telling them to eat a bag of dicks or something like that. Excuse the language, but
nice.
And when you have this much outpouring, almost affection, like from these music artists that you look up to, you're very envious of, and they put out this music that makes you feel like you can relate to it when really you can't.
I mean, it's one of the weird. Sorry.
That's kind of I was gonna say it's kind of a trigger for this romanticizing of it when you've got. Here's an example. Taylor Swift. The song You Belong With Me, that's her basically saying that she's jealous of a guy who's with another girl who she thinks she could treat better.
I mean, so not just on her topic, but one of the weird things about this is it's its own enemy, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody seems to be so open and accepting of people with anxiety and depression. But now, again, because everyone's trying to be more open about it, everyone seems to have it now. You know what I mean? It's odd how it works against itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's one of those things that kind of I thought about a lot, is just everyone's trying to be more open. Everyone's trying to understand this. Well, not everyone, but a lot more people, I'll say. And it's odd how it works against itself in the end, because now you have everyone and their mother joke thinking that they have these issues, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. Fact of the matter is, now there are definitely people, and you can't argue this, that think that they have these problems when realistically they don't, or maybe they do, but not to the extent that they think that they do. So it's odd how it works. So again, it's weird how it kind of falls flat, or at least kicks itself in the rear end, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd say I'd agree with that. One of the big issues I see is that because there's a lot of, as we mentioned earlier, with social media and how everybody's so interconnected to one another, it makes it very easy for people to take a glimpse into somebody's life and make assumptions about them that they have it worse than I do, or they have it better than I do, and that adds to the problem of the topic.
It's kind of weird how when you're talking about this, everything is interconnected. It's to quote one of my favorite YouTuber series, it's a series of tubes, as it were, right? Mm-hmm. If anyone catches that, I'm proud of you. But it's weird how when we say that it's easy to compare these things and easy to make assumptions, but at the same time, when you on the back end of it, like it's easy to do this, but we also shouldn't be making comparisons, or you shouldn't make assumptions about a person either. You know what I mean?
Right.
It all goes back to, I guess, what you shouldn't be doing, but we all innately do it anyways. Because
Yeah.
I think being judgmental and being this way, I think, is what makes people who they are, or makes us human. I'm sorry,
it makes
but
people-
everyone is judgmental to some degree.
Of course.
Anyone who says they're
that's how
not,
it is.
I genuinely believe is a freaking liar. I mean, you're going to sit there and tell me you don't judge anybody? Maybe on the outside you don't, but internally you know you do.
But that's only in, I'll say, people of other cultures are judgmental, but not to the degree of which that we are, not to the degree that which we are as like Western society, Western civilization almost.
Well, it's weird. So you ever meet one of your internet friends online? Has that ever happened to you where you got to meet someone you've only known through an avatar or through an @ name or whatever? Have you ever had that happen to you?
I personally haven't, but that's also because I wasn't really much of a gamer growing up.
Right.
So,
So for me, for example, like when I met some of my online friends at events or whatever, when you meet someone online, you get for a lot of people, you get a steady contrast of what they post online and who they are in person. It's you think to yourself, am I even talking to the same person? It's weird.
Right.
So a lot of the time, it's odd how you'll find these people, then they'll act one way or say one thing online, and then be completely different in another. That's happened to me before too. So when I have that happen, it's kind of weird to just sit there and examine almost two different people entirely. So now you have to form two different assumptions, or think, why do they post this, or why do they act this way, or why do they act different in person?
Right.
It's just weird to think about.
It is weird to think about, but it's also, when you are online, it's almost a shield. It's like a mask that you can post what you want and really have no real repercussions, as long as you're not like saying you're going to blow up a school or something.
Agreed. It's a way for people to actually do or believe who they think that they actually are. I mean, you've always run into the people who think that they're a character from a TV show, or think that they're, I'm not making fun of those people, by the way, or think that they actually are this person, this other real human being, like, no, I'm actually this person, or they think that they're this person's best friend or whatever. It's one of the odd things to consider, how people can just be who they want to be. And I think that's unhealthy. Well, not unhealthy, but weird, because once you put the phone down or close Twitter or close Instagram, you get hit with that steady realization real quick of, I'm still the person I don't want to be.
Right.
So, I don't think that's healthy either.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you have the almost the common sense to be able to pull yourself out of that, it's like how some people, myself included, actually, to kind of escape like their own monotony or get out of their head for a little bit, they'll daydream. And
it's a good and a bad thing. I'm not saying there's only negatives to it. It's just I think the negatives definitely start to outweigh the longer people put themselves in those situations.
Right, but what I was saying was that as long as you have the know-how and the ability to pull yourself out of that, like, that daydream, that kind of is where I kind of sit with that whole thing. As long as you can pull yourself out, you should be fine.
I agree, but one of the things that I think that I'll say to that is just that, do you actually think people have that know-how? I would argue that a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Because think about it, at what point in life do you get to be whoever you want to be and have people somewhat kind of accept it, besides your parents or Halloween? Exactly.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
So that's my point. Is just
yeah.
A lot of people don't necessarily know how to handle that off switch, or how to handle that contrast of, I'm back to reality now. I actually have to be this person. I would say that for a lot of people, they don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a problem as a society as a whole that we should try to work on. And instead of saying, instead of being open and like super accepting and super politically correct, you should say you can do what you want to do within reason, and you should be able to pull yourself out of that unreasonableness if if you need to, if the moment calls for it.
I would say yes, but at the same time, it kind of goes against what we've come to normalize in society, where people who hide behind avatars, people who upload videos, people who make content that hide behind these alter egos are also some of people's favorite entertainers. And that it would be wrong of me to say that I don't fall in that category either.
Oh, so, right.
So, I mean, it's kind of weird how we shouldn't necessarily not normalize it, but just hope that people start to realize the contrast between reality and everything else.
I think it's not about normalizing. I think it's more or less about bringing light to the situation rather than trying to alter the situation as a whole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
So it's odd how I think when we look at trying to fix, not necessarily fix a topic like this, but we discuss possible fixes or just relative things that we think could be better, it all goes back to defying human nature.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the weird things that about it is just that no matter how much we discuss it, we could talk it into the ground. It's not, I don't think it can get better, but it'll never fix itself, really. It'll get better to a point. At least that's my opinion.
I'd say so. Yeah, it gets better to a point, and then it's like there's a straw that breaks the camel's back, and we revert. It's like it's like that one quote. Unless you make a change, like history is doomed to repeat itself, or something like that.
Yeah. It's one of the weird things is just when you look at situations like this, one of the things that works against us is our uniqueness and our ability to think differently. And people are going to want to handle these topics differently or handle these situations differently. Right. And that's why that's why politics is terrible, because either they do it for a motive or they actually believe what they're standing for, even though everyone else is like, well, no, you're an idiot. Maybe you think that, but they don't. They actually do stand behind what they're preaching. And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. Everyone else may be saying they're an idiot, but they have a few people who think not. And that's one of the things that works against us in politics and in things such as this, where no matter what you do, it all goes back to defying what we are.
Right.
So that's just my personal opinion, but it'd be amazing if we could actually try and find a way to fix this. But in order to do it, we would have to literally get on a hive mind concept and or chip everyone's brain to think a certain way. Which at that point, why be even human?
Right. At that point, it's not even worth it.
Exactly. There's no humanity anymore, so there's really no reason for it.
Exactly.
So it's weird, but that's personally how I feel about it. When it comes to get back on the overall topic at hand, romanticizing depression, it bothers me a lot because I want to really help everyone that I come across in some way. I really genuinely do. But some people make it incredibly difficult to want to do that. Not because of how they act, but it's some of the things they say can be incredibly rude to someone who actually does want to help. It goes back to something we've already discussed, where you go out of your way to help somebody and they're either incredibly dismissive of it or the person they want to help them isn't helping them. I mean, it's, for example, when you were younger, or maybe when you got a little bit older, when you wanted help, quote unquote, maybe you just wanted a certain female's attention, or maybe you just wanted a certain person's attention. You could get help from anybody, but you don't get it from the person you actually want it from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, you would see people posting on social media saying, "Oh, I'm so sad," or "Oh, anybody want to talk?" You go message them, and they're like, "Oh, not you. No, not you. Leave me alone."
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my point, is just, you know what I mean, that what's the best way for me to put this? Do people really not necessarily want help, or do they just want a temporary bandage? What do you think people actually want more realistically?
People realistically, I think it depends on circumstance. Frankly, that's what it comes down to. With the idea of getting help, if it's somebody who's on the brink of wanting to commit suicide and take their own life for some reason, I think they might not feel like there's any help out there, but if they had somebody who truly just reached out to them and like really made them like almost force them to get help and really help them see like the positivity in their life, then they might be able to go and make the change, and it's not a band-aid fix so much, whereas people that have superficial problems want the band-aid fix.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Or I think necessarily don't want a bandage fix, but what they think will fix their problem, whatever they think it may or may not be. For example, a lot of times people think that a relationship will fix loneliness. And that's something I've had to learn pretty hard in my life, is that that's not remotely true.
Absolutely.
As much as you want it to be that way.
Right. People
sorry, go ahead.
People believe when you get into a relationship, your problems go away because you can share your problems with somebody else, not realizing those people have problems of their own as well. And if you have two people with the same amount of problems that come together, you have twice as many problems because you're each sharing your problems with the other person. And that doesn't solve anything. It just makes you feel like you've got someone to be there with, rather than have somebody who's trying to help you get better. You just kind of stay stagnant.
Pretty much. It duplicates a load on two different individuals who now have to do things together. And it's odd because that's the idea of a relationship, is handling things together. That's what marriage is. When you marry someone, you inherit their debt, as an example. So that's kind of odd how people will want that fixed but don't realize what comes with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looks like hang on. Just pause real quick. I'm just watching the chat, and it looks like Uwe and Sir Clerk are having a pretty good conversation here.
No, I know. Trust me, guys. We read the chat, every message you send. We just don't touch on them because we get easily distracted. We want to stay on topic. So we promise we're not ignoring you. We are definitely reading chat. All
right. So back to the point at hand. Relationships doubling your problems. What do you have to say on that?
It's odd how when you fix one problem, you create two more.
Right.
Honestly.
It's like a Hydra.
Pretty much, yeah. Cut off one head, two more will take its place, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually true, at least in my opinion, that, I mean, for some people, such as myself, I mean, I have a loneliness issue, and I think that goes back a lot to my personal childhood, where I always want company of the opposite sex to some degree, whether it be a relationship or just talking to somebody. Now, granted, I do love being around my men friends as well, such as you, but there's some things you can get from the other that you can't get from the former, which is obviously what can you get if you're a straight man? What can you get from women that you can't or won't want from a man? Honestly. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it personally works with me as an individual.
Right, yeah.
I mean, people who don't know me that well, like here's a little opening moment for people who don't know me, right? This is because I don't know if it's really a thing or not. I'll just say that in scientific terms, prior to me being in relationships where I don't do anything, I have incredibly highly active libido, and I pursue just about anything that I can.
Mm-hmm. You a hoe.
Now, obviously, when I'm in relationships, that sucks. For the obvious
changes,
reasons. Yeah. But yes, that's how it works for me personally. And unfortunately, one of the things that comes with that is ruining friendships, because some people can't separate sex from love. They can't do it. Personally, I can. In my mind, it's easy. But that's
similar.
Me.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can do that.
I'm the same way. Yeah. I think one of the issues is it almost doesn't even come down to trying to find a solution to your problems. It's like you don't want to be lonely.
Yeah.
Instead of like me personally, I'm an extrovert and I love being around people more than anything else in the world. if I have the choice between sitting in my room watching Netflix all night or going out and sitting in my friend's room doing the exact same thing with 3 other people, I will be with those other people. Simply because I like that. I like being around other people more than I like being alone by myself. Some people have argued with me that it's because I've got my own unsolved issues in my head that I don't want to be alone because then I can think and blah, blah, blah. I assure you that's really not the case. At one point or another, it can be the case, but for the most part, it's not the case with that. I just like being around people.
To comment on what you said, Yue, you can't say that. You don't know me.
I know. I can vouch for Martin. He's good. He is all set on that.
It's incredibly easy for me to do that because you need to look at it as an act of getting what you want rather as opposed to active connection. That's the entire point of it. So not to be rude, but you can't say that you don't know me.
Right. I think he was making a joke more or less, but
yeah, even still,
yeah,
that's you.
Right.
You
but it leaves a point to prove. That's
it
all.
Does, but I'm sorry, but you again. I haven't had partners. How many? You don't know me, man.
Yeah.
You.
All right. Change the topic. Uwe, hush up, buddy.
Yeah. You don't know me. You can't say that.
Right.
I'm not trying to say that I've slept with hundreds of women, but I've had my fair share.
He's had his fair share, and he's had enough to be able to decipher sex from a relationship.
Yeah,
from sex from love. Yeah.
To me, it's incredibly easy. But
and it is what it is. That's the end of that.
Yeah, we're moving on.
Yep. So, Martin, what's the next point?
When we talk about myself, and you said people said that you became an extrovert purely to deal with your own issues in your own way. But
right.
It's weird how no matter what you do socially, people always take it as you're just trying to avoid your problems.
Right. When really that's not really the case most of the time, simply because if you're like me and you I'm going to pause on this thought right now. I have to think about it a little bit more. Martin,
gotcha.
You can continue. Yeah.
All right. So, at least in my opinion, it doesn't matter how exactly you handle yourself. Someone's always going to make the assumption that you're doing it purely to handle your problems in whatever way that you think you do. So, you're an extrovert. I know you.
Yep.
I don't think you do it to escape your problems. I know you've faced issues, but it's not, what you do isn't your way of handling them. That's just who you are. I know you well enough to know that how you handle your problems doesn't connect to what you do socially. For some people, they're intertwined entirely, but for you, I know that's not the case.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get at. You actually summed that up pretty well.
Because again, it's weird how I can say that because I know you. People who probably don't know you as well as I do or don't know you at all are going to make that assumption anyway. Right.
And that's exactly what it comes down to. Is like, it's not even about like someone like you who knows me versus someone like me who knows you versus someone like Uwe who doesn't know you. It gives and it takes. That's really what it kind of comes down to.
He's not name dropping you. He's just making a comparison.
I'm not name dropping you. But it more or less just comes down to, it's like who knows you versus like who thinks they know you. It almost bring back to that how everything's connected. It goes back to almost social media. You hop on someone's Instagram feed, you check out every single one of their posts. You think you have a pretty good idea of what their life is like. You meet them in person, they're a completely different person, and you can't figure out why. It's because there's a barrier between what they show versus what they are.
Yep, that's entirely true. I mean, I've always had that fun, that it's kind of odd how when people actually, because of where I am on YouTube now, people actually, they'll follow me on something, then they'll actually talk to me and like either A, I thought you'd be ruder, I thought you'd be meaner, or I've heard so many times, I thought you'd be different. I'm like, well, what did you think I'd be like? And it always takes people by surprise to some extent. And I don't really know why. I don't know if it's what I post, people think I'm rude or arrogant. I mean, it's possible. I personally just try to be funny, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I could try to shed a little bit of light on that. When people say that they think you're different, it's because they're forming their own opinion based on solely what you post, what you do, what they see you doing, versus like actually talking to you. And again, it comes back to that barrier that you can look at somebody on the street, not know their name, not know who they are, and you can create your own backstory for that person. You can create a backstory for them. You can tell yourself who they married, why they married, what's wrong with their life, what's good with their life, how much they make a year, just because you make your own assumptions about a certain person. And then let's say you see somebody walking down the street, you make all these assumptions, you walk up and introduce yourself, and they say one word and you're like, I thought you'd be different. And they'd be like, who are you? But it's because you've already drawn your own assumptions in your own head about that person.
It's fairly common. It's kind of happened to me a lot. And sometimes it comes from people who don't even meet me. They just message me and they'll ask some questions and I'll answer. And then they'll say things like that. And I've always tried to ask, like, well, what did you think I'd be like? And they said, I don't really know. I just imagined you differently. And I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. In my mind, I just started putting it as a good thing to not, worry myself. But no one's really been able to effectively answer that question. But I do hear it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I think it might be is, like, I know you as before you were Airman Martin. I knew you but when we were in high school together. I know you after you married. Like, now that you are Airman Martin, and I'll know you after you're no longer Airman Martin, however long that may be. But what I think it is that based on you have three facades. I'll limit it to just three because I know there's more than that. But you have three almost facades that people will view of you. You've got face-to-face, person-to-person, like what you and I, when we hang out and film and do stuff like that. You've got your Twitch following, and then you've got your YouTube following. And if you look at all three of those, the quote-unquote content you put out to each of those are very different.
Oh, yeah.
Your YouTube following totally is more military-based, so you have to have that stoic professionalism, and you have to have your facts right. You have to have your opinion set aside. You have to be very straight to the point because that's what people expect in the military because of what we're taught about how the military is. You go to your Twitch following last night, what was it? You were drunk and streaming? Like,
yeah.
That's a completely different, like, if you had somebody see your stream and then you had somebody see your YouTube channel, they'd be like, I know it's the same person because I can see it, but you act like two separate people. And I think it's because of the type of content you put out there and how you portray that content is what really makes the difference in when people talk to you versus when they see you streaming versus when they see your YouTube videos is what makes them think you are quote unquote different from what they expected. If that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. But I think when I compare all three of those, besides you knowing me in person, will eliminate people who only know me based on YouTube and Twitch. If you were to follow me on Twitch, you'll get the closest resemblance of my true personality type.
Right.
And to answer your question, Blue, I'm actually not hungover at all. The only side effect to all that drinking was cotton mouth, which I already fixed. And kind of an upset stomach, but it's gotten over itself. So I'm actually not hungover at all, believe it or not. So it's probably the best way to put it is that if you follow me on Twitch, that's the closest resemblance of my true personality, but not truly. And that's the thing is just, yes, I go back to being my loudmouth foul self, but I'm not always like that either. And this might come as probably doesn't. You guys hopefully should know this. Every person that I am online is a character. It's a means to an end. It's still me. It's just not me 100% of the time. I mean, yeah, how I act on Twitch is definitely me, but it's overhyped, it's exaggerated because, really, guys, when I game, do you genuinely think I'm always sitting there yelling, screaming, swearing? No, most of the time I'm quiet, I'm just sitting there to myself, having a drink, chilling. Steve knows this. That's not the truth. I mean, it's a part of me, it's my overhyped self that sometimes I do get mad and I yell, but I had to learn how to change myself for the viewership, change myself for people. It's still my personality. It's just me overblown, essentially.
Yeah, it's exaggerated.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm not annoyed with the military, at least not the actual military. I'm annoyed with the excesses of military questions or comments because I've said this before. and it's my own problem, but one that I still don't like, is people view me as a means to an end or information. They don't view me as a person. I've had people get mad at me for not answering their questions or say that I owe them information when I don't owe them anything. So people view me that I should be doing something for them purely because I'm Airman Martin. And I put my information and myself out there, so I have to do things for them. That's not even true. I don't have to do anything for you if I don't feel it necessary.
Right. That's common courtesy, frankly. I mean,
yes.
You're doing it out of kindness. You're doing it out of the kindness of your heart to like inform people about the military and about the Air Force and everything like that, and you give them a personality to kind of like learn through. And then when they almost throw it back in your face when they are like, you're not giving me enough information, I want the codes to the nukes, and you're like, I can't do that, and then they get mad because of it.
I mean, I want the codes to the nukes too, man. What the hell?
Exactly.
But seriously, yeah, that's absolutely true. People will get mad at me. I've had like followers like post about me saying this guy's a liar, he didn't answer my questions, or he's an ass. Like this is what people have actually said about me. And I'm like, I just can't answer your question. I don't have the information you want, or I can't answer it to the full extent possible. Something that people don't understand is that the military is volatile, and everything like depression is on a case-by-case basis. I can give you a general idea. People are like, how about this specific instance of my specific life and my specific problem? What will they do about this one hyper-specific thing? Dude, I don't know. I'm not you. I'm not a recruiter. I don't know. I don't know everything. I'm just a freaking E4, parentheses E5. I don't know everything. I know my job. I know what happened to me, and I generally know what may happen to you, or I can give you the best course of action. But when people get so hyper specific that I can't answer, and I tell them honestly, hey, I can't answer this, but this person might, or this resource could be good, and you get mad at me for it because I can't answer. I didn't do it because I'm telling you to F off. I'm doing it because that's genuinely all the information that I have. So this is why I shut down. This is why I stopped uploading, because I got sick and tired of being viewed as an information source and not as a person.
Right.
I'm not an asset. I'm a guy.
Mm-hmm. I'm not an animal, I'm a man.
I am a man with thoughts and feelings.
You don't have feelings, you lying son of a bitch. Pardon my language, but you don't have feelings, Martin.
Sometimes I really wish I didn't. But again, that defies humanity itself.
Yeah, unfortunately. And one of those pesky emotions will lead you to today's topic of depression and anxiety.
And it's interesting to see where it's taken us. So that's the other reason why I'm getting pushed off military-wise is that he's here and he can't offer much on it. So that's why for the podcast I'm saying chill with it, because he can't add much. So it kind of alienates him.
Right. I don't mind if you have to go, like, if someone's spamming a question, they're just being annoying, I will say answer the question, get it out of the way so that way we can keep moving forward.
I know my channel is based in the military. It doesn't mean that I owe anyone any information, nor do I have to constantly talk about it. I get it that people are going to view me as that, but people should also respect me enough to understand that if I don't have the information or I don't want to answer, they should say that that's okay. I don't owe you anything. I don't have to do anything. The difference between what I put myself out there and what I have to do. And literally what I have to do is nothing. I can stop uploading now. I can even delete my channel and I'll still go on. I'll still get paid. I still have my health care. I'll still have a job. This channel is extra. So I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything to me. It does. I've been doing YouTube for a very long time. But if people are going to routinely treat me like that, it's not worth it. So, you're all equally worthless. Yes. Rest in peace, Gunnisar Army.
All right. So, are we going to continue with this topic, or should we hop on to the deep post topic? Or is there anything more you think we could say about this?
I mean, I want to kind of move away from the military again, mostly just because, again, I don't want to alienate you from this.
All right.
But that's kind of my final words on it. What I said prior is just, I know what I put myself out as. It doesn't mean I have to do anything. Just because a porn star is a porn star doesn't mean she has to suck your dick. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So that's my final point. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. So back to the topic at hand. What was our last point? I mean, we kind of went on a pretty long tangent there for like 10 minutes.
We were on relationships mostly and how they think they'll fix loneliness, or you being as social as you are means people think you're hiding from your problems, just being extroverted all the time.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say with how things go, me being an extrovert, it doesn't mean I'm depressed. It doesn't mean I'm not. But people make their own assumption. Oh, okay. I see. Okay. Sorry, I was running in my head and I figured out where we were talking about just a minute ago. People make what I was gonna say. People make assumptions based on what they see. That's what drew us to that whole tangent. Okay. But people think that I'm running from my problems because I always wear a smile and stuff, and I might be the goofy friend, and I do have my own problems, and I have my own issues and battles to face and demons to fight and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean that I'm looking at other people as an ends to a mean to run away from my problem.
No, that's just how you enjoy yourself.
Right. That's exactly it. And people don't always see that.
Because Steve knows that I enjoy peopling to a point.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's how a lot of my friends are. Like in college here, a lot of my friends, like for a few of them, like my friend Flo and Holly, they tolerate people to a point, and I like to think they've said this a couple times that I'm one of the few people that I can come outside their quote unquote business hours, and like if it was 1 a.m. and I knocked on like my friend Flo's door, she would open it up for me and not like be super mad or try to turn me away or anything like that. And that's just how that goes.
Having sex is one of the most dangerous things you can do. If you get a girl pregnant, your life is over. I mean, maybe in your opinion, for some people that's the start of their life. Some people want to be parents.
Some people want to be parents. Some people view sex as a crutch, as a drug, as a pride factor. That's a very, very broad statement.
Yeah, I think with a lot of your counter arguments, you just made generalizations for everybody, or say everyone does this or everyone should do that. That's not necessarily true. But again,
right.
I'm not trying to argue here. It's just that so far you've been making a lot of blanket statements towards me and even made assumptions about me when you don't know me. So again, I'm not trying to be rude here, but just take it back a bit. And again, some people do want to be parents, some people want to be mentors, people want to have families. I know people women who got pregnant right after high school, and I thought to myself, that's the dumbest thing you could do. Your life is over. Why do you want to be a mom already? You just got your freedom. But that's
they're even happier now than when they were. Exactly. Yeah.
I know all they wanted in life. So
yeah. And there's a lot of people that are like that. Right. You have your opinions. We have ours. That's just how things go.
Right. But my point is to stop labeling your opinion as a fact when it's not. And we're not saying ours is either. But we've never said either that everything we say should or is true. Just an opinion or a relative to the people we're talking about.
Right.
Also, hi Tommy, nice to meet you. Welcome to the podcast. Should put this on. I should have linked this elsewhere. I forgot.
Yeah.
Happens.
Anyway, continuing on. Throw it up now. We have like an hour to go. At the very least. I mean, we could talk about this topic for another 4 hours.
Oh, very much so. We've been live 58 minutes. I actually like how on YouTube, on the description of the live page, it says you started streaming 58 minutes ago.
Yep.
All right. So, what do you want to discuss this time? We can go into those fake deep post things if you want to.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Perfect. So for where this topic came from is I was watching one of my favorite YouTubers, Pyrocynical. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. I love his commentary videos, and one of the videos he made. Now he makes a lot of jokes, but his entire channel is based around memes and jokes, right? But the videos, one was newer ones was called "I'm 14 and this is deep," and
That's the video you sent me, right? When you
Yes.
suggest this topic. Yeah.
Now, of course, I was viewing things from a comedy aspect, but also from a realistic aspect, right? Where when we were all preteens and new to being teenagers, we saw those posts that heavily generalized society in some way, shape, or form, right?
Right.
So you had, one of my favorite ones is, this one that was really funny is everyone wants to park their car in the shade, but no one wants to plant a tree.
Right. Like, yeah, everyone wants to park their fucking car in the sorry, language. Everyone wants to park their car in the shade, but no one wants to plant a tree. That's such a generalization about ecological resources, people in general, automobiles, like the laziness, the fact that we don't want cars sitting out in the sun. Like, there's so much in there, and that's completely ridiculous to even that statement. Like, and I'm sure, like, it's obviously been made, so there are people that are like, "Oh, this is so deep. I'm gonna get this tattooed on me," and you just sit back and look, and you don't know why they're making such a big deal out of this.
I mean, I think that these kind of things always affect people differently, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my opinion, it's deep, it's great. Now, you could argue that everything has, or you could be more over analytical just about anything, that everything is not what it seems. But some of these posts were just ignoring so much.
Yep.
Like one of the ones is just like, imagine if everyone like on like street corners, right, planted trees that way the homeless people could eat year round. And I'm like, yeah, ignoring the fact that it takes pesticides and people to man these things, actually make sure they function, make sure pests and insects don't eat them to their very core. But, sure, whatever. I mean, good idea in theory, just not in practice, which you could argue is the entire point of all of these is good idea, just it wouldn't execute very well.
Right. I mean, another one that he made mention of in that video was when you take away people's phones in like a stock image, it makes them look like they're so depressed and looking at their hands, and it's like, yeah, but when you put the phone back in the image, then you see that they're on their phone, and that's a pocket-sized device that has almost all that has access to like most of the information around the world. Like,
and that's the funny thing.
The images lack context. That's what it is.
Here, I'll link the video for you guys so you guys can get it.
Yeah, throw it up there so they can kind of see what we're referencing.
I'm not going to play it because I don't know how that would work if I stream another YouTuber's videos. That might get me in trouble. I don't know.
Just put it in the description.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat and we'll go from there.
Okay. There you go, guys. And, yep. So that's the video we're discussing. Now, of course, his video is all about the comedy aspect of it and tearing these quote-unquote deep things apart. But there's something to be said about how people will cover these things or they'll post these things, and I'm kind of like, but what about all these other things? Or how is that even relevant to anything at all?
Right. Because they lack context.
Incredibly.
Yeah. And that's kind of what makes it so easy to have these fake deep posts is you can take, like, I'll take a picture of this lamp that I have right next to my desk here. I'll put it in a black and white, throw a filter, maybe put some sparkles on that, and I'm going to post it with some quotes saying, there is no light without darkness or something like that. Some super philosophical bullcrap like that. And there'll be people that'll just eat that up, and when in reality it's just a lamp on a desk. Or with the case of the phones, it's like it's just somebody laying in bed looking at their phone. They're probably checking their Snapchat, and they might be doing they might be Googling something. They might be trying to find directions to go somewhere. Like, you got to give these things context, or else you can overanalyze everything and make everything into a quote-unquote deep post or meme.
Yes, you can. But that's the thing, is just when you're being over analytical to these things, you're not doing it to tear them apart per se. You're just saying, or providing the counter of, but what about these other things that you're not considering? Right,
exactly. And with these deep posts, a lot of people in the comments of these I've seen, like on iFunny or Reddit, you'll see these posts and people will go and call out the maker of the deep post and say, hey, give it some context. What if they're doing this, and people will like shout at them and be like, this isn't what it's about. This isn't what it's about. And it's kind of, it's almost funny how people are trying to defend their contextless junk, their contextless image for the sake of being edgy. If that makes any sense.
I mean, it's kind of hard to make a meme that's incredibly specific to everybody or covers every topic that it could potentially branch out to. But at the same time, when it lacks any kind of context or is so black and white, you can't expect people to not poke holes in it.
Right, exactly. And that's when the issue comes in with these deep posts, that when people poke holes at it and the creators get upset or something like that, then you face the backlash of trying to be edgy, and that kind of, for some people it drives them to be quote unquote more edgy, and other ones will be like getting upset over it.
I mean, there's nothing wrong, I guess, with being edgy, quote unquote.
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, as I said, it's hard to consider every possible angle one can take realistically, but you can't generalize too much either.
Right.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, at least on that?
On that topic, I mean, not really. I've kind of, I thought about that one, and it was more or less just contextless images can be interpreted as super deep.
Again, it's just funny, more or less. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about it. It's more or less funny how when you were younger, these things probably, not saying they meant the world to you, but probably hit so much harder. And then when you get to look at them, it's weird.
Yeah. Now on Snapchat, I'll even follow these pages and just to go through them and laugh at them. Like, you'll go and see somebody where it's something like, oh, if everyone turned off their lights at night, we'd be able to see the Milky Way and everything would be happy and sunshine and rainbows and
time zones.
Yep, exactly.
Because that's not how that works.
Exactly. That's one of the arguments that like I've seen.
Or my favorite one from like your stoner ex-girlfriend was, if everyone smoked a blunt, everyone would just chill out and the world would be peaceful.
Yeah. Oh
that
my
one,
god.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, that's not going to happen either.
If everyone smoked a blunt right now, we would have world peace. I'm like, yeah, for about an hour. Then everyone would raid the 7-Elevens because they have the munchies. And then we'd have World War III.
I want the Flaming Hot Cheetos, man. Those are my Cheetos.
I'd say have a Snickers, but you already raided them about a week ago.
Oh, man. That's honestly hilarious.
Yeah. Sometimes stoners are the walking, talking, deep post memes.
They actually are, because, I mean, their ideas are not bad as ideas. They just, again, they don't execute at all because they can't.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here's a question.
Sure.
I think I've honestly had enough.
All right, well, I'm glad that's done. That was upsetting me a little bit.
Yeah, again, you don't know us. You're making assumptions based on the fact that we're talking about memes. We didn't say that we thought they were edgy. We're talking about the people who thought that they were. You're not listening to the argument. You're at all.
Right.
You're baseless. You're
baseless and you're a bit too opinionated for this conversation.
Yeah, again, you can have your opinions about us, but to say that we're children, don't understand the world around them, you don't even know what I do. You don't even know what he does. You don't know us at all. I'm sorry, right. But I've had enough, because I wouldn't care if you're making good arguments, but now you're attacking people individually. And right. I've had enough of that. So you're not going to do that to me or to Steve.
Yep. So what were you saying? You were about to ask me a question, Martin?
How often as a college student do you come across things like that?
Across deep post memes or across people that overanalyze into contextless things?
Overanalyze into contextless things.
it really depends on, ironically enough, it depends on the context of that. Because in a classroom setting, I'll see people overanalyze a simple problem to find a crazy drastic solution. And in other situations outside of a classroom setting, we'll have, what's the word I'm looking for? We'll have someone say something and it will bring about an argument for some case in point. I'm not giving it context specifically for that reason. But you'll have people where an argument is brought to the table and they will go above and beyond to try to force context onto that situation that is reasonably contextless. So ironically enough, the context of the situation depends on if it can be interpreted as such.
One of the things about this, and that kind of works in the same way that I appreciate music for, is people are going to take it and make it what they want it to be, like anything else. I mean, I've always found that to be one of the best things about music, is just that people, with songs that they love, sure, some of the lyrics don't exactly match the situation, but they still feel it in some way. You know what I mean? Which I've always thought to be a good thing.
Yeah, like there are some people like you and me where we'll listen to an entire song and we'll hear one lyric and say, this is a super accurate song to my situation, when really we've only heard one lyric, but then we almost find different meanings in the other lyrics surrounding that one verse.
It's kind of funny, though. It's just we're kind of playing against ourselves, because a lot of those statements will be blanket statements that are kind of contextless in and of themselves, and then, you know what I mean? Kind of funny how that works. Yeah. How we'll play into our own, argument of that.
Yeah.
Been live for hour 10 or hour 11, by the way. I'm just keeping you updated.
I'm keeping track myself.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah.
But so now that I've gotten rid of that nonsense, I want to address this a little bit. I don't really care what your opinions are of me, but if you're going to make assumptions about me that you don't know, then please, I don't want you here, as much as I hate saying that.
Right.
To say that I'm blue-pilled is honestly incredibly dumb, because anyone who knows me knows that I'm actually really conservative on my own, but I don't put everyone in the same blanket, because that's how nothing gets done. Again, I understand that in politics, one force has to be the driving method in order to get things done. However, I still preach understanding and realism, that everyone should be heard, or everyone should be at least listened to. Again, not everyone's going to agree. Like, no, one person has to be in control, and you need to fix this and not listen to these people. There are some people that I won't give the time of day to. Trust me, there are people that I won't, because I won't even disregard their statements. But at the same time, if everyone's always stuck within their echo chambers that we mentioned in the last podcast, nothing gets done that way either. Because you have basically people arguing at walls.
Right. And it's like screaming at a brick wall. You're not going to get anything done, and you're just going to get sore and tired and sick of it later anyways.
Right. And then after making numerous assumptions about me, when no one really, not no one, but he doesn't really know me, and then to say those things about Steve too, only based on the things that we've been saying for 72 minutes, and prior to that, at least around 65, it's not necessary. And at that point, you are part of your own problem, as much as you may not want to admit it. So I suggest that in the future, me and Steve have no problem debating people. We have no problem talking to people. Right. However, if the only thing you're going to do is, you are this because I said so, and you have no facts, or you're just making assumptions based on things you've heard, that's not an argument. I think this, so it's true. It's not an argument. Right.
We're here as podcasters, essentially, we're trying to, the podcast is called Screaming into the Void. We're just talking about topics that we think are important to us, and that's it. Whether people are here to listen to it or not, or give feedback or not, that's up to you. But if you're not going to listen to what we're saying and not take what we're saying into context in your comments,
and then argue, I think this and you're wrong, which is not an argument. That's just you.
I mean,
ironically screaming into your own echo chamber.
Right. I held my tongue when Uwe was saying, dude, you have a military channel. It's like, do you not hear what we're talking about? You are the people that we are talking about. Like, and it takes context, and you have to listen to what we're saying if you're going to be able to respond adequately and not have this happen where you're no longer posting in our chat.
I'll handle it as it is. Again, we're not here to want everyone to agree with us. We have every qualm, or not every qualm, we have every want to get people here who want to have discussions, but appropriately.
Right.
Not insulting people, not making assumptions about somebody, but appropriately. Again, it's ironic how everything I was talking about that I don't like, he was doing.
Right.
It's weird how it was kind of just, he was falling flat on his own face. So again, if that's how people are going to be, I'm not gonna put up with it, because again, I'm here voluntarily. I'm doing this because we want to, not because we have to. So I have no problem kicking you out of my podcast. Plain and simple.
Right. Yeah. We're not getting paid to do this. There are no sponsors. This is just two dudes talking, and you guys are listening. That's about it.
And for those of you who do stay here, we do appreciate you guys. We don't want you to think that you're expendable to us. You're definitely not. It's just when people act that way that I'm not going to have you here. You guys know for a fact that I'm not anything without you guys. You know that. And that's why I love that you guys are here. Yeah, you guys are here, you're listening, and you've always stood by me, and I love all of you for that. It's just I'm not going to let someone make assumptions about me or Steve and then say, you think this and you're wrong because I think this, and then provide nothing to back it up other than I'm smart or I have a degree. That, as we mentioned in our prior podcast, ironically again, that's not an argument. So, yeah, got a little heated there. But, I mean, again, I understand that it comes with the territory, but it's still annoying no matter what. Doesn't matter how many times it happens.
We run the podcast. We're allowed to say what does and doesn't fly. We're not going to be arrogant prats about it, but we will draw a line when personal attacks are made, unnecessary comments are made, and we are the moderators that decide when that line is drawn, who does what, and that's it.
And Blue and Golden, you guys are mods of this channel. Blue, I know you're in contact with me when that was happening. And Golden, feel free to as well on Discord. If you feel a line is being crossed and you want my opinion before you take action, feel free to. Or sometimes just do something that you feel is necessary. And then it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. If you do something, I won't get mad at you for it. I may just say don't do that in the future. No harm, no foul. You know, I mean, I'd rather you guys take in action where you feel it's necessary than always ask me. You know what I mean? It's give and take. And I love these live streams that have real conversations like this. I was tonight. I'll assume you meant I was doing something tonight and started getting deep into thought about this. Or, okay, I got you. Never mind, I misread. Yeah, no, me and Steve love doing this too. When we and him are together, a lot of the times this is how we talk all the time. Me and Steve, you know what I mean. So that's why we wanted to share this with you guys. Our conversations, our opinions, you know.
I mean, originally it was my idea with the whole Screaming into the Void. I wanted to do this when I was home on a break from college in January, and I didn't have the means to get it started. And then I came back to school, I got busy. Martin messaged me and was just like, "Hey, I'm tired of doing some of this stuff. I want to diversify my content a little bit. Are you in?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah." And so here we are.
Yep. And what's going on, Mark? How are you, man? Making an absolute declaration based on assumptions, logical and unfair, which is what I kept saying.
Yep.
Which is what I kept saying. He's making complete statements based on information he doesn't have. Mostly the fact that he doesn't know me and he doesn't know Steve. The only thing he has is my content
what we're giving him in the podcast and whatever Martin posts.
Which, as we've discussed prior in this podcast, isn't all of me anyways. That's a fraction of my personality. So again, it's hilarious how everything we were saying was defying all of his counterpoints, which there were none. It was, I'm smart and I know better.
I have a 3.7 GPA, and
I really wanted to bring up the relevancy of that. Like, people, like, I'm sorry, but if you say that people are surprised when they find out how smart I am, I'm like, how is that relevant at all to this? Or why bring that up? I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't get why you feel the need to say that.
Bringing up how smart you are proves that you're not. You have a number on a piece of paper. Like, I'm in college. I know what the whole GPA thing is. I'm not going to mention my own GPA because there's no need to do that. But it's at the end of the day, a GPA is a number. It doesn't mean you're a good person. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you know how to follow directions and get a task done. That's all it means. How good or bad is relative based on the class and then the content that's given.
Yep.
That's really all it comes down to it.
I'm sure people could say that me and Steve can't handle feedback or we can't handle counterpoints, but those weren't counterpoints. Those were just insulting us and saying you're this because I said so. That's not arguing.
Yeah. If you bring us a valid counterpoint, we will gladly go shot for shot and debate with you on the point that you bring up. But if you're saying I'm smart and you're dumb because I say so, that's not an argument, and we're not going to stand for it.
No, I'm not going to put up with it because you're proving to me already how you handle your arguments. And also another thing that kind of kept bothering me was the need to make everything political, like how he basically called women the devil with everything that they do. I'm like, look, man, I'm sorry that women don't want to have sex with you. Really, I am. But you can't say stuff like that. You can't. Because he basically made a blanket statement saying that all women want to do is take babies away from men and all women do is falsely accuse men of rape. I'm like, does that happen? Yes. Does every woman do that? No.
No.
I'm sorry, but no.
Yeah. It's a blanket statement, and that's really all it is. All right.
Moving on.
Let's get back to the topic on hand.
It aggravated me. I'm sorry.
Oh, me too. I held my tongue because we're technically on your channel and not mine. So, topic at hand, Martin. What do we got?
We were on the deep posts, I remember.
Yep.
I'm going through our old text messages at the moment to see if we had any ones that we wanted to talk about. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, one that I kind of wanted. Now, this is kind of weird based on what we just got done talking about, but it's being intellectually lost amongst people. Or, I know we touched on this a little bit in the last podcast, but mostly it's finding your place amongst people that you not necessarily can't stand, but you don't understand. You can't understand their points or their reasoning. Being military or being in college, I'm sure you've run into people where you just can't understand their train of thought at all. No matter how hard you try, you're constantly thinking, I don't understand how you came to this conclusion, or I don't understand why you think that way at all.
Yep. That's a very common misnomer here at college, frankly.
And that's kind of what I wanted to touch on a little bit, was just being lost intellectually amongst people, or the hive mind. I mean, remember like back in high school or middle school, however you want to be popular. So the popular kids kind of all had the same mentality or the same personality types to some degree. So you tried to do it. It didn't fit your personality type or anything like that. But you're sitting here thinking to yourself, I don't understand how this works. Or I don't understand why people like these people.
Right.
That's kind of what I want to touch on a little.
Okay. I'll take that and run with it for a minute. In middle school and high school, I felt that being like how you interacted with your peers the first 5 years of your schooling, from kindergarten till about 4th to 6th grade, that is how you are established as a person for the rest of your schooling career until you graduate high school. Because I say this because when I was in kindergarten through 2nd and 3rd grade, I was one of the cool kids because nobody really knew what cool and not cool meant. 1st grade, I had my own opinions on how I would do things, how I acted on the playground, who I talked to, how I treated people. That's what determined how I was treated for the rest of high school, because I can remember one moment clearly from 2nd grade where, like, I saw all the quote-unquote cool kids doing one thing. I mimicked them, like not being an asshole or anything like that, not being rude or trying to mock them or anything. And they just looked at me and were like, "You're not cool, and you're not going to be." And I was confused because at that moment I was like, what do you mean cool? I thought we were all in the same class. We're all just the same people in the same kind of environment. What does cool versus not cool mean? And then over the next couple of years, it came to how you did in class was like if you were one of the smarter kids that you could do your math problems quicker than the other kids, if you didn't get in trouble for doing something dumb, if you talked to everybody and you weren't really rude to anybody else and you didn't really almost have your own opinion, then you were considered cool. And when you differed from that, you were kind of put into the outcast. And that's where I personally ended up.
Did you ever have those moments where you actually got their attention for something that you did? Like, for example, for a long time, like I had a buddy when I was coaching football. I was coaching one kid whose father worked at a gum plant. So I had a bunch of free gum that I was selling off for money, and I had everyone's attention, even like seniors and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I had all their attentions. I even had some of their phone numbers. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I'm popular. No.
Yep.
They viewed me as a means to an end.
Means to an end.
Plug for gum, which in school was crack. Might as well have been crack.
Yep. Literally was. Like, I remember I walked around. I became friends with a bunch of people because I carried 2 packs of 5 gum, 2 different flavors, and people, they'd come up to me and they'd hand me like 50 cents and be like, "Can I get a couple sticks of gum?" And I'm like, "All right, 50 cents a stick." And they'd hand me $1. I'd go and I'd be like, "Here's this flavor, here's this flavor." I was the plug for gum in middle school, and I wasn't even at that point, I wasn't accepted, but I was tolerated.
That's kind of what I imagined I was too.
Right. I was a means to an end. They wanted gum. They had money. I had the gum. I mean, God, I make it sound like a drug deal, but
they had the money. I had the stuff.
We're good. Yeah. But that's kind of what it came down to I was the means to the end for them. They wanted some fruity flavor bull crap to chew on in class, and I provided it. It didn't mean like I couldn't go and sit with them at lunch. I couldn't go and say hi and give them a high five in the hall. I was just the gum guy. And that's all it was.
Yeah, I could say the same for me. I mean, it's kind of funny how in high school, gum is currency. I'm pretty sure college, weed is currency. And in prison...
just drugs.
And in prison, it's cigarettes.
Cigarettes and sexual favors, yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Everything has a currency. Everything has a price.
Yeah. But I mean, you know this, I know this. We were the outliers in our primary school upbringing. And until we left that environment, and once everybody left that environment, that's when you realize that people started acting differently. Like the people that quote unquote would bully me, harass me, give me shit and stuff like that, they started treating me with respect. And I was skeptical, and then when they formally came and were like, "Hey, I was rude in high school. I was not a good person in high school," and they apologized for it, I was like, I'll give you a shot. And for the most part, I've never had any issues since then. It's like that the cliquey mentality has faded away and kind of disappeared, and because you have to get ready for the real world.
Would you say for a lot of people it ends up fading away at some point?
Mm-hmm. But I'd say yes, but at the same time, no. It depends on who you were in high school. If you were like the star quarterback and that was your thing, you were always top dog in high school, you peaked in high school. And now that you work at a gas station over on Broadway and you make less than $15 an hour and you go to the bar every weekend and get completely smacked out of your brain and try to pick up loose women, that's it. That's it for you.
I feel like you're being specific to a certain person. I'm not going to say who. I'm just going to say that I know you're mentioning someone straight up right now. Steve's throwing
I'm not mentioning names, but
yeah, I know.
There are people I know that are very similar to the person I just mentioned.
I'm sure everyone has that person or knows of that person to some extent.
Yep. It's a generalization. That's why people can relate to it. Yeah, but so what were you saying about intellectually you feel like out of the loop and you don't understand how people work? what were you going to say about that? Because I've been talking for the past like 10 minutes.
One of the things that I've always kind of had a hard time accepting is just, and again, I think it all kind of goes back to social media. You see the way people think, you see the hive mind, or you see the way people talk, and you just sit there and think to yourself, I don't understand why this is either accepted or why people agree with this. And it's depressing because it can be something incredibly terrible or just maybe incredibly stupid, and you're just thinking to yourself, how or why is this a thing? Why do people accept this? Why is this normalized? Now, maybe it all goes back to that's your opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not here to press beliefs, but at the same time, some things you think to yourself, why is this normalized? Why is this okay?
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of always been my personal thing, though. Like, it goes back to, of course, either social media or just social standards on the whole. When you don't have the popular mentality and everything you think is correct always gets shot down or demonized, it can be sad because you think you know what's right, but clearly maybe you don't because everyone else is against you.
Right. And it may not even think that you think what you think is right or wrong, but what you know is right. It's like the if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump with them? And in high school, you'd probably find a group of people that if he jumped off a bridge, would you all follow? And they'd be like, yeah, let's go. And then there's people like you and me. Why are you jumping off a bridge? And then they try to drag you into it. It's like, oh, wouldn't you do this? And then for me, my immediate response to whenever somebody asked me something like that, like I would say, I'm not gonna jump off the bridge with them. I'll be at the bottom of the river with a boat, making sure I can catch their dumb ass. Like, pardon my language, but that's what I would do. And to me, that made more sense. And it never boded over well. They were just trying to see, would I follow the masses or would I not follow the masses? And then when I gave them a completely different response that's more logical to what they're presenting to me, then they get confused and they get almost flustered. And they're like, that's not what I was asking. Does that make sense?
You know, it absolutely does. I'm just trying to collect my thoughts here in the moment.
Sure.
I think there needs to be an ideal or acceptance that it's okay to not share the accepted mentality as long as it isn't dangerous thinking. Does that make sense? You know, I'm trying to think of an example to compare to without upsetting people. It's kind of hard to do that. Mm-hmm. Can you just possibly think of one?
I can't think of one right now, but I'm talking to a couple of the viewers via Snapchat. They're actually watching the live stream collectively in my friend's suite on campus. And
hi guys.
Apparently, Flo, Julie, Olivia, I think Holly might be there. I'm not sure, but hey there. And apparently, I look like Rashida Jones. That's what they're saying.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
They took a reference image from my Facebook.
Oh no.
Oh god, this is. I can't see it. I can't see it.
I can.
Shut up.
I can totally see what they're after.
Yeah, but.
So I think this is not, I mean, we try not to upset the masses, but this is a good one to kind of get into. Okay, so for example, I remember I was talking about this a few nights ago on Twitter, where I know one of the big talking points right now politically, it always kind of has been abortion, right? And for a large portion, I agree that it should be a woman's choice, and that most people shouldn't be able to make her choice for her. But I have always said there's only one other person's opinion that should matter in that situation, and that should be the father to be. Because a lot of people are like, no, it's only the woman's. The father has no say. I'm like, I understand that the woman's carrying the child. I do. But that's his child too. And I think he should have at least some say as to what happens. I'm not saying he should be the ultimate authority. I'm just saying his opinion should matter. And the woman should take it into consideration.
Right.
But that's just me, though.
I mean, not to get political, but abortion's a very easy topic for a lot of people to go to get very aggressive on and to almost to quote unquote go hard on.
Oh, agreed. I wasn't trying to start a fight. I'm just saying this is the easiest one to go on, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've had conversations with a friend of mine on campus. Not going to mention any names, but if you know him, you know him. He's one of those people that is against it in certain cases, but for it in others. And that's the way it needs to be. It's not just cut and dry.
Well, that's the problem. It's just that when it comes to lawmaking, as we've said before, you can't pass laws on a case-by-case basis. You can't do that.
Right.
You have to make a blanket coverage.
You can generalize on a slightly smaller scale than what you actually what the current legislation is. Because back in I don't even remember what the court case was that allowed abortion or whatnot.
I honestly don't remember or don't know.
But let's just say
I'll look it up.
Right. I'm just looking at the year. I think it was like the 60s and 70s, maybe 80s. I'm not sure. But what I was saying with this was
Roe versus Wade. Abortion. Is it? No, it's not that.
I think Roe versus Wade. It was Roe versus Wade.
It was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
was.
Right, yeah.
1973.
I'm taking 73. Okay, I was right with the 70s. I'm taking a history class, so I probably should be better at this, but we're just post Civil War, right? In my history class. But what I was saying was I'm gonna say this once, and I'm just saying it so I can nip it in the bud so it doesn't come up again. Feel free to step on this once I'm done, but abortion, to me, it's not cut and dry at all.
No.
But there's a relatively simple solution. If it's rape and incest, allow it. If it's rape and incest, allow it. If it's not being used as a form of birth control, it's okay. If every year you go and have another and another, just, oh well, I got knocked up, time to go to the clinic, that's a problem. That's just the way it is. It's a problem.
Keeping records of the amount of times you probably do it.
Exactly. And that can be put into the legislation. Records have to be kept by Planned Parenthood, and unless they're doing like back alley abortions, then there's going to be no record of it anyways.
Which don't do that, by the way.
Obviously, that's unhealthy, and you can probably die. But that's my only point on abortion. I think it's totally legal. It is a woman's choice. The father needs to have a say in it, because unless it's rape or incest, that's when the problems arise. But if it's rape or incest, the father's not going to want to have a say in it. Whereas if it's just spur of the moment, didn't use a condom, bad things happen, and pregnancy happens, everybody should have an equal say into it. Like
the mother and father.
Mother, father. Yeah.
Especially if it's going to be against the mother's health. I hate saying this, but the mother is alive as a life. The baby does not. Therefore,
and
her life
there are people, and then there's people that will say that life begins at the point of conception. So
we're not going to touch on this much more, because we could go through the loophole. And we're going to end up upsetting somebody. But yeah, so that's the easiest way to say, like, going against the societal norms. Now, I'm not saying that's one of the topics that upsets me. It's not. It's just a very common one to easily throw out there. Like, hey, as an example, it's this one. So I'm not saying that this is the one that makes me upset or anything like that. But it's a very easy thing to throw out there.
Yeah. So I think
we're gonna nip that one in the butt now.
We covered that topic pretty well. If somebody wants to bring it up again, message one of us per debate for years about it. But we're on the stream right now. We're on the clock right now. So we're trying to keep things professional and staying away from politically tense topics.
Yeah.
All right, back to the topic at hand, Matt.
All right, which we always seem to have a problem refinding, because
we went back to the last topic I remember before we jumped off was opinions on not being as smart as, or not being viewed as similar as your peers, the hive mind concept, so on and so forth.
I mean, would you say? I mean, so for example, growing up it kind of upset me, but when I look at, like, mostly, unfortunately, it goes back to politics, which is why I'm not going to divulge into it too much. Maybe that's why I had such a hard time getting into it. But that's kind of why it upsets me, is because you want to be correct, or you want to be seen as correct in society's eyes, and when you're not, or when a majority of the opinions that you share don't fall within societal norms and you get seen as that outcast, or if you talk, you get ostracized. How can that, I mean, is that not supposed to make you upset that people see you as a scapegoat or as, in their eyes, an idiot?
With that, I mean, first and foremost, you're definitely allowed to be upset over something. How you handle yourself when you're upset is really what defines whether you're going to be viewed as a scapegoat or as a child or as an adult.
Yes.
And how you take that information and move forward with it. An example, I would, like, you know, in middle school, high school, we get yelled at and we are like ostracized by our teacher because we do things differently than what they want us to do or something like that. And when we, in certain cases, we have a right to defend ourselves, and we're not trying to argue, we're not trying to start a problem, and they more or less come at us simply because they want to be seen as I'm right because I'm older and I'm better than you.
Yeah.
I know more than you. I've been around longer. You have no reason to defend yourself. Listen to me.
Which I've always said is not an argument at all. And if that is your counterpoint, then no one should listen to you, period.
Right. I mean, this is a topic that, Martin, I know you know about and I know about, but our viewers wouldn't know much about. But do you remember Mrs. Albarella?
Yeah.
She was kind of like that person that would argue with us simply because she wanted to be seen as right. Not all the time, but there were cases that she would do that.
So she was our digital media second instructor. Our first instructor, whose name was Mr. Mattimore. Great guy, loved him to death. I want to go back and talk to his class one of these days. He actually invited me to do so. So
I tried visiting him over break. I tried visiting him over break, and he wasn't in the office. He was off on lunch. So like when I went, and I was just like, "Hey, can you call Mr. Mattimore? Have him come to the door." He's like, "Oh, he's on lunch." I'm like, and they're like, "Is Jackie Albarella there?" She's like, "She's also on lunch." I'm like, "All right, never mind. I'll come back at another day." But I was trying to go there and like kind of give them an update on what we've been up to.
You would have to like call ahead, and because the one time we went there, we got turned away. Yeah. Remember?
Well, I mean, Mattimore always said that we could literally just walk up to the building and tell them like, "Hey, this person and this person are here to see you," and he would just buzz us in like nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Because remember the one time we got yelled at, and he's like, "No, these guys are fine. Leave them alone."
Yep. No, you're good. Come on down.
Yep, I remember that.
Oh yeah, but going back to our point, Mattimore was our digital media instructor at BOCES, and Albarella was the secondary teacher. Mattimore had a family emergency, both of Matt and I's senior year of high school, and he couldn't complete the school year as our teacher. Mrs. Albarella took over. And at this point, Martin, myself, and our other friend Joel, who was actually in the Navy, we were the ones who almost ran the class. We were the self-proclaimed, I will say self-proclaimed because I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, but we knew a lot more than most of the class. So when people had problems, they would come to us instead of Albarella.
We were getting questions daily and like, "Hey, how do I do this?" Or, "Hey, what's your opinion on this?"
Right. And we'd be on the verge of setting up our own lesson plans to like teach people how to do their stuff, but it wasn't really like a teacher lesson plan type deal. It was more like
informal.
Okay, here's your project. We'd get it done in 2 days. Everyone else would have 2 weeks to do it, and we'd have to help them every step of the way.
I remember that she threw massive shade at us. I don't know if you remember this, but she basically did a forced feedback session where kids had to ask only her questions, and she said, asking amongst peers is great, but you should still ask the instructor." She literally threw shade at us and did a forced feedback session to get people to stop asking us questions. Right.
But then that goes back to like, I remember because we didn't necessarily argue, but we brought back the idea of when we're growing up in school, ask 3 before me. And we would say, and like, because we were taught growing up, ask your peers before you go to the teacher, because the teacher's a busy person. They've got very valuable time. Try to get the answer and try to get the help from your peers before you go to the instructor because they're busy. And that's what people were doing with us, where we could give them a quick, concise, correct answer. And that was alliteration, quick, concise, and correct.
Nice.
Correct answer. And we would give it to them. It would take 5 minutes. We'd give them what they need, show them how to do it, and be ready for another question. Whereas the teacher, because they're just that, they're a teacher, they were taught to take their time to explain it fully in depth, when a lot of students at that late point of high school, junior and senior year, there's no need to do that. There's no need to carry out a conversation for 15 minutes going about the nuances of how to edit a Photoshop document or something like that, when we could just give you, this is what you need to do, this is how you do it, go do it.
I mean, it's always good to know the background information to something.
Of course, but if you don't need it in the
relevant.
context,
yeah,
right, if you don't need it in the context of trying to get your problem solved, then it's not necessary.
That was definitely a major thing I remember with her.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of the questions or a lot of the things revolved around how would this be accepted if I posted this. I remember because a lot of it was digital media. A lot of the things that people made were for their social media, like, hey, look what I made in class, or hey, look what I'm doing in school. And they wanted to know what people would think socially, or if they wanted to post it to this site, how would I do that? Or if I wanted to do this, how would I do it?
There's nobody better to ask than the peers that are going to be viewing the material itself.
Yeah.
And a couple of the instructors didn't understand it. What was that kid? Jerry. Jerry, you remember Jerry?
Yeah.
He was the guy he was trying to be a rapper, and he would go into the closet that they set up, and he would try to record like music and stuff like that. And he would always ask us like, "Hey, I'm posting on Instagram," or "Hey, I'm posting here," "Hey, I'm posting there. What do you think?" and stuff like that. And that was when like our opinion was like, at most, it was the most valid point we could bring up. Like, that's what it was. But that definitely comes back to the what's called, the idea of peers and older folks trying to almost go around us to get our how am I going to
get their opinions known. So I understand
yes, that's it. Mm-hmm.
So I understand that when you're an instructor, when you're older, when your job is teaching, you get upset when people naturally circumvent you to answer their questions, because you think to yourself, I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I should be the one
They spent their entire life trying to get to that point.
Right, so they should be appreciated.
The number one point of contact. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I understand that. But at the same time, you'd almost think that when you're not even necessarily needed and people are still doing their projects correctly, you're doing your job almost as well as you can be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
When your own students can teach others, you as a teacher have pretty much succeeded in everything you've been trying to do, at least in my opinion.
Exactly. Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And some teachers almost expect that. Some teachers prefer that. Other teachers can't stand that. When, like, in certain cases, like with Albrella, she didn't like when we were the ones answering the questions that could have been given to her, because for the question that's given, her knowledge and our knowledge was the same.
Okay, but the thing that I think upsets me is that a lot of time it was information that she couldn't have because she wasn't one of the kids. You know what I mean? It came to a lot of the questions were based on, if I posted this, how would people react, or what do you think people would think? She wasn't a social media figure, or she didn't have any of that.
Right.
So
she just knew how basic marketing worked from a consumer standpoint, not a social media influencer standpoint, where it's not about trying to sell something or buy something. It's about trying to
get the reaction,
show your opinion, get a reaction, show an opinion, and get a reaction. Yeah. So
that's unfortunately kind of what upset me the most about how she handled us as a class. Matamore was the exact opposite. He always he was literally
he was very hands off. He was very hands off.
He was hands off, but he was hands on when he had to be. But one thing that was good about him that I always appreciated was he was not against letting the students teach him, because he always knew that he didn't know everything. So when time came There was times he asked for my help. There's times he asked for your help. And he was like, I don't know how to do this. How would you do this?
And you'd give him a opinion, you'd give him a idea of how to do something, and usually, like, because of how he was as a teacher, he would take what you give with him and he'd run with it. And then like a day, 2 days later, he'd come back, show you what he did, and then be like, hey, look at this. What do you think of this? And he'd ask for our opinions instead of us asking for his opinion.
He wasn't asking for our help just to make us feel good. He was asking for our help and then ran with it to see where it would get him. He didn't do it just to fill our egos, basically. This is happening around my volunteer organization. They want volunteers to do more and not staff. Is that a bad thing? I mean, your volunteers shouldn't be doing everything, but your staff is being paid to do a job. But volunteers, they're volunteering to do something too. So it's like, where's the line? You know what I mean? But in any case, yeah, that was kind of something that not necessarily upset me about her, but made the class a lot less enjoyable when she mostly took over. Because remember, there were times that she tried telling us we need to do this or do it this way, and I remember I literally told her, I'm like, no, there's a better way to do this. You just don't want me to do it. You want me to do it the way you want me to do it, even though I could cut the time in half.
Yep. I remember. Just a quick story. I remember you remember this because you had to do the same project, but this was like right when Matamore had to take off for a family emergency. And Albrella was taking over. We had to do an audio remasking project. We had to find a video online and remask the audio for it. And I chose the Modern Warfare 2 trailer. And I remember that day, and only that day, the security firewall for the internet flip-flopped.
Yeah, we were allowed on YouTube and did anything we wanted to do.
We were allowed on YouTube, but we weren't allowed on Twitter, whereas normally we were allowed on Twitter but not on YouTube.
Yep.
And so because of that, in the 2-hour period that we had there, I got my entire remasking project done. I got it all set up and finished, and I submitted it, showed it to her, and she was like, there's no way you can be done with this. I was like, it's right here. The file's right here. Here are all my audio clips. Here's the project file. And she's just like, there's no way you can be done with this. It was only 2 hours. And I'm like, look, the firewall flipped over on its head today. So I was able to go to a MP3 converter and take the audio from the YouTube videos and put them into my project. And she's like,
was the basis of the project.
Right. And it was finding a way to either you yourself go into the studio, the little sound studio in the closet, and make your own sounds, or find sound clips online. And like, I remember she physically she tried telling me like, you can't do this, you have to redo it. And I was like, that's absurd. Like,
because
I just
you didn't
spent
provide guidelines on specifics on how it should have been done. You
said,
just
and that's exactly what
you didn't say what, you didn't say how to do it. You just said remask it. That could mean anything. But you didn't provide specifics.
And that's what let me submit it. And because she got so upset over like you have so much, like, you do all this work, and it's basically like the best thing I compare it to is like doing an entire day's worth of work and then not getting paid for it. And I was like, yeah, that, like, look at the guidelines, look at what you told me to do, look at my product, like my finished product. And like, I remember she went to Matamore about it, and Matamore, like, he's like, let me see the final project. He looked at it, he's like, this is good, this is more than acceptable work. And like, that was the end of it. And she got all mad because of it, because then after that point I had like 2 weeks of just not doing anything, and I could just kind of screw around. And that's when we right, like, you finished yours like the day after I finished mine. Like, I did mine on a Monday, you got yours done with Monday and Tuesday.
Because I was just trying to find a good video to use, and then I got annoyed. So I literally pulled like the Halo 4 trailer at the time.
Yep.
And then I just took some like really over orchestral music, recut up the trailer, and then some gameplay, rendered it with one track, and submitted that, and said, I'm done, I'm annoyed. And I got an A on it. Right.
Like, I got an A on mine. Like, I probably had like 60 audio clips from various YouTube videos from like in the if you go back and look at the Modern Warfare 2 trailer, like, if there was a vehicle driving by, I had an engine sound going with there. If like there was someone saying something or gunfire, I had all those like individual clips put in there, and it was really funny to see. Like,
Oh, it was
I did all,
hilarious.
oh, like I did all this work, and you remastered fucking audio for Halo 4, and we both got the same grade.
I
And
put
I
so
wasn't
little work into it, and I remember you being a little mad at me
right.
for cheesing it so
I was
badly.
I was mad. I'm like, what the fuck? I could have done the same thing. Pardon my language, but
And I
I could
cheesed
have done
that
the same
project
thing.
so badly.
Yeah,
I just didn't care
like
because it was a dumb project. Because
yeah,
she
it
literally
was. It
gave it
was.
to us because she had nothing else for us to do. That's why we had that project. She had nothing for us, so she made it up on the fly. I remember that.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Because she was typing up the documents for it as she was explaining it to us. So I
Yep.
could tell that she was pulling this project out of her
Oh, yeah.
out of her ass because she had nothing for us.
yeah. I mean, I will say, like, just because we're on the topic of BOCES right now, and I'm reminiscing a little bit, nothing will beat our final project, our first year at BOCES for digital
Oh
media.
man.
Mortal Kombat in real life.
I thought that was our senior project.
No, that was our junior project before going into senior year.
Oh, okay.
Are we still on topic, Blue Knight? No, we're really not.
We got
Kind
on a
of.
tangent, but we're on, but
Yeah.
we're not. We're discussing the fact
Yeah.
that adults think they know everything when we're providing the point of we literally outdid a teacher for an entire year.
Yeah, yeah.
We circumvented all of her knowledge.
Yep.
That's basically
Let me
what we
see.
ended up doing. Hi, Jordan. But I remember, so for that project, the idea was to create a product. It could be anything you wanted. You just needed to use multiple programs in order to do it. We used
Right.
Premiere, After Effects, Flash, Photoshop, and one more.
I got the video. I got the video pulled up right here. Let's see. May 13th, 2013. That was our junior project.
Yep. Okay.
Yep, that was our junior project. And Alistair edits as opening.
Oh
Man.
don't pull me down.
All right.
Don't do
Yeah,
this
we're
to
not-
me. Don't do this to me, Ricky Bobby.
We're not gonna put it in the chat. If you guys want to go dig around and try to find it, go for it.
I'll
It's
post
somewhere
it
on
later if you guys want to
It's
see
somewhere
it.
on Martin's channel. I say let him dig for it.
All right. But yeah, so we
can
were
find my
able to
channel
make that
and
product with multiple
Yeah.
tools. And I
Right.
didn't have any of the plugins that I wanted to make it really as good as it could have been. But it was good for what it was. And it was
What it was, yeah.
I hate saying this because this sounds incredibly cocky, but it was easily the best project in the class. I hate
Oh,
saying
yeah.
that, but there was really no comparison
Yeah.
to be made here. But yeah, so when we did that, submitted it, we got a perfect grade on it. I remember that.
Yeah, that was my key into National Technical Honor Society.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was because like,
Well, that video got me accepted a freaking like $10,000 scholarship
Yep.
too. I remember that.
Yeah.
I got like it was reoccurring too. It wasn't just off the final grade or off the final product. It was 10,000 every year off for 4 years, which I thought was pretty good. But it
Yeah.
was I got accepted into the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. I just never actually went.
Right. My favorite tangent, just going off on the tangent because we're still on the topic of BOCES, just so quickly. One of Matamore's students found our video and showed it to the class.
I remember that. Yeah.
And Matamore was like, "Oh yeah, I remember those guys." And the student was like, "What the heck are you talking about? I just found this on YouTube." He's like, "These were my students 2 years ago." And then when we came in, like it was like May of 2014 or 15, where we came in, just came to the class and just talked to them a little bit. And like they're like, "Oh my god, you guys made Mortal Kombat in real life." We're like, "Yeah, don't remind us. It wasn't a good video."
We didn't think anything of it, but they thought it was the greatest thing they'd ever seen. And
It was cool because it was a different concept that a lot of them hadn't. We were ahead of our time.
I remember that. Oh
Yeah.
man. But anyway,
But-
so yeah, we were on top of it. We got off on personal tangents because
Yeah.
it was a lot of good times. Like my best time in high school was BOCES easily. But yeah, so when it came to her specifically, I mean, I don't know. Is she still teaching? She's still there, right?
Yes, she is. She's still at BOCES.
Okay. I've wondered if she changed her methods at all, or if she's still the same way.
I think she changed her methods mostly because the influx of students that are coming out are much different than when you and I were there.
Oh yeah, we were the guinea pigs for that program. I remember that.
Yep. But let's get back on topic.
Gotcha.
What was the topic?
We might have to actually change it up now because we've kind of talked it into the ground.
I mean, yeah, we really did.
But is there anything else that you kind of wanted to, like anything personal that's kind of eating at you? Or any fan-suggested ones in the comments if you guys have one? Just not military or political, or like not primarily political.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've talked our topics into the ground. If anyone in the comments has anything to say, go for it. If you have a topic you want to bring up, as long as Matt said, not political and not military. If it's military, I can just take off and it's not a big deal, but Martin would be like, don't leave me here.
I mean, the point is to have both of us. It's not just me.
Right. Yeah.
Just waiting to see if anyone's got anything for us. Give it a few minutes. If not, we might just call it off. We've been live for almost 2 hours.
We're about like a minute to about 3 minutes away.
1 minute.
1 minute? Shit.
119 minutes.
All right.
Oh, yeah, it reminds me that I already do have a game for the next podcast. It's definitely going to be Devil May Cry 5. I forgot about that.
Which one?
Devil May Cry 5. It comes out Friday. Podcast is the day after.
Yep. Yeah, so you'll definitely have some footage for that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, awesome. Overcoming barriers. Sir Clerk just said that.
Okay. With who? Like friends, family?
I mean, Blue Knight just said thoughts on Nero getting fucked over by his dad, Virgil. Oh, God.
Well, I'm... So, Steve doesn't know this series, obviously, nearly as well as I do.
I do not.
So, I'll basically say this. I'm holding in my heart, hopefully, that Virgil's going to be a good guy and actually help his son in the long run, but it doesn't look like that. But I'm being stupidly optimistic. But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, moving on.
All right, overcoming barriers. I mean, with no context, the way I see it is overcoming barriers is more or less just you have a goal in mind and it's how you accomplish that goal. And you've got opposition to accomplish that goal, whether it's you want to join the military, you want to go to college, you want to start a business, you want to start a YouTube channel, a bunch of different... There's a lot of different perspectives that can go into this, but overcoming barriers, simply don't let anybody tell you no unless it causes detrimental harm to yourself or others. That's my thought on it. Martin?
Sorry. Again, of course, it's all circumstantial, right? Depends on who you're talking about, who you're with, things like that. I mean, personally, having these issues right now, I would say that in the long run, I don't want to get too personal on this, but it really depends on who it's with or why, because it's all goes back to the fact that it's your life and you're going to do what you want to do, or you should, as long as it's not, crazy or stupid. So...
Even if it's crazy and stupid, don't let anybody stop you, especially Martin. Fuck that guy.
But seriously, that's my point. It's just, people are going to do, I think, what they want to do. And instead of trying to limit people all the time or just always say you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, or think why don't they tell me about these things or why don't you tell me about them, think maybe why don't they tell me about these things? Always try to view what you're saying from the outside in. You know what I'm saying? It's just, for example, if for say like me and Steve got into a fight and I was always like kind of yelling at him or belittling him, and all of a sudden he stopped talking to me, I would have to think, okay, but why is he not talking to me? Instead of just blaming him, I'd have to be like, well, how am I acting? What am I doing that's causing this problem? Instead of always saying that people are ignoring you or people are not talking to you, think about what you're doing that's getting you the reaction that you're getting. I think that's my point.
Yeah. You have to take a step back and look at it from a larger, just beyond your own echo chamber, essentially. Because if you're stuck in your own echo chamber, no matter what you say, you're going to hear the exact same back over and over again until the end of time. When you leave that echo chamber and you can say the same thing, then you can look beyond that and find where the actual issue stems from.
Would you say that people don't want to actually get outside of that too much?
Depending on the context, of course. I would say, yeah, people are complacent. People are very comfortable, and they don't like leaving their comfort zone. Like,
well, understandably
Martin,
so. But
well, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Martin, before you joined the Air Force, what were you thinking of doing? Working at McDonald's and living at your parents' house for a while, and then eventually figuring your way out?
I wanted to do. I was confused in your question, and I didn't know if you said what I wanted to do or what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, you're right.
That's what you were doing. And you had to take a step back from your own little echo chamber where wake up, go to work, come home, pay bills, play video games, all of that. You take a step back and then you're like, this isn't what I need to be. This is not what I should be doing. And you force yourself to go online, get the paperwork for the Air Force, fill it out, and then essentially restart your life.
By the way, doing that paperwork is awful. Just throwing that out there.
College isn't any easier, man. It's easier than it's easier than the military, but it's not a fucking walk in the park. Excuse my language.
No, that SF-86 packet is a giant packet of all this information you need. Oh man, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I hated doing it.
Yeah, but overcoming barriers, I mean, like, it depends on the context to really get into it, but like, if you're willing to truly work and you're willing to give up like comfort for results, you will be successful. You will more than not be successful.
You maybe not. And the reason I say not is because it takes two to tango. Somebody else is the barrier, or someone else is part of this problem per se. And I say it takes two to tango, or two or more, because if someone else isn't willing to do what you're doing, then at what point are you just talking to yourself? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
So for example, if you've always been having issues with some people, and they hate you for what you do, or they don't like what you do, and every time you do these things that they don't like, they get mad at you, or they give you nonsense or things like that. At what point do you just stop trying to fight it? You're like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done trying to explain myself. I'm done trying to explain what I'm doing. I'm just gonna do it. At what point do you do that? And I'm not saying, I'm not asking that as I want an answer. I'm just saying, there's a line to be said that just because you're willing to put that work in does not mean everybody is.
Right. With that specific example that you gave me, I know you're looking for an answer, but that's when I say, in my original point, when it becomes detrimental to yourself or others, that's when you draw the line. And in that specific example, if, let's say, Martin, you're trying to go do your job, accomplish a mission, whatever you got to do for your job. I don't even know what you do for your job, to be completely honest. But you have a job to do, and people are like, I don't want to do this. We're not going to do this. And you still know you have this goal to accomplish. And if you're a good airman, you're not going to let somebody stop you from accomplishing your goal. So instead of working against them, you go around them. That's kind of my thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like being lazy as much as the next guy, but at the same time, you can't deny the fact that when work needs to be done, work needs to be done. That's always been my thing. It's just that, yeah, don't get me wrong, I enjoy, taking a day, just being lazy, chilling on YouTube at work, whatever. Everyone does that from time to time. But what I'm saying is just that realistically, when there's things to be done, there's no excuses for not doing it. At least in my opinion, just, the bare minimum, you're being paid, do it. But that's just my thing.
I mean, I agree with you. When you're being paid any dollar amount to accomplish a task, you do that task. Simple as that. That's what's required of you.
Yes, and people are always going to say, well, I'm not getting paid enough, so I don't want to do this. Doesn't really matter. You're still being paid. And more often than not, I mean, yeah, realistically, some people don't choose their job. Some people take a job, and you take it only because they need money. Obviously, everyone needs money. But at the same time, I always think that you should try and accomplish everything to the best of your ability, or at least do it to some extent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for the boundaries, like in relation to how that applies here, because we kind of got off track a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be boundaries with coworkers, because some coworkers can make going to work or being at work incredibly mentally draining.
But at the same time, they can be positive and uplifting and make it not as hard to be here. So it's a double-edged sword.
It is. It absolutely is. It all goes back to the hope of, when that meme of like when you walk in and see your favorite coworkers, you know that your day is going to be good, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you walk in and see people you hate and you're working with them for the day, it instantly ruins your mood.
Right.
Everyone's been through that.
Mm-hmm. You just take the good with the bad and you do whatever you can to make your time the best time it can be given the circumstance that is given. Again, everything is contextual, so it's very hard to pinpoint like this is the right way, this is the wrong way to accomplish X, Y, and Z.
In relation to boundaries, though, I know in my own life that I've had a lot of these issues. And remember when I said that I didn't really want an answer, like when it becomes acceptable to stop trying, but do you have anything for that? Or like, because I'm not saying necessarily with work, but maybe with people that are closer to you.
Mm-hmm. With people that are closer to you, I mean, when you stop trying, it's again, like comes back to my point when it's not about, people will say compromise is when you stop truly fighting something, you start working with the other person to get a common goal. With people that you're very close to that aren't willing to give up their own personal opinions for your sake or for the sake of another human being or whatnot, what I would say to that would be, when it comes detrimental to yourself, or you can't go any farther without harming a relationship, a friend, a family member, physically, mentally, emotionally, or otherwise, and instead of getting angry, instead of trying to get even, instead of getting mad, you take a step back and you walk away from the situation. I mean, that's the one thing I learned is like, it'll always come to a certain point where you're going to, like, it's like a wake-up call. You're just going to open your eyes and just be like, you might be in the middle of an argument and be like, it just clicks. This isn't worth the time that I'm putting in. It's not worth the effort. When it's not worth the effort is when it's time to stop. But it's up to you to determine how much effort it's worth. If it's family, if it's friends, if it's career related, you determine the effort that's given versus what's taken out. But that's really what it is.
Agreed. At some point, no matter what, I think personally you're always going to hit a line of it's not worth it anymore, because yes, compromising is good, but
it only gets you so far.
It only does get you so far, and it kind of, in my opinion, it always kind of just puts a bandage back on things. But maybe that's just me.
That depends on how well you compromise. If you compromise on one topic and not the overall issue, that's the Band-Aid. But if you can truly go and like delve deep into the issue and find a true medium where you and your supposed opposition have common ground, then you can really have a good compromise and it'll be long lasting. It's less of a Band-Aid fix.
Yes, but when it's mostly just we're going to compromise purely to get the situation over with, then we all know it's going to unravel again at some point.
Right.
I think one of the things that I've always kind of wanted to say, though, is that people are complex and people are going to do what they want to do regardless. People are going to do what they want to do that makes them happy. And honestly, I get really sick and tired of... I mean, this is kind of my thing earlier when we were saying, like, people with depression who have the ability to get help but don't actively are kind of their own issue. But if that's what makes them happy, or if dealing with it the way they deal with it with things what makes them happy, they're going to do it anyway. And when it comes to doing something that someone wants to do, you and me may look at them and go, this person is just stupid. Stupid. I can't do it. They're dumb. But it makes them happy. They're going to do it. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you and I say or what they've
Right.
told us. It's like that girl who always gets back with her ex. You know what I mean? And we may
If it
look
makes
at
her happy, right? Like we know, like he's an asshole. He's abusive. He's a cheater. He just doesn't treat you right. But if in that moment when she decides I'm happier with him than not with him,
then she's
we
gonna do
have
it.
no power. Right? She's going to do it, and we have no power to say otherwise.
Right, and in the past she said, no, I'm done with him. I don't want anything to do with him anymore. At the time, you may be like, yeah, sure, that's great. And then and then she changes her mind. Sure, you and I will look at each other and roll our eyes into the next universe.
Yep.
But we'll accept it as it is.
Because we can't change it.
No, we can't. I mean, again, we may look at it and think it's dumb, but if it makes her happy, she's going to do it. And that's something that people need to understand is that I always say that people should try to mean what they say and stand by it. But things volatile like emotions or love, you can't really hold to someone to the letter to it, at least not too much. Because it can easily change. But that's just me.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
That's why whenever I have girls that are my friends that that are with a guy that I actually think is a complete piece of you know what, and they keep getting back with him or they forgive him, and he's cheated, he's done this, he's done that, and I'm like, I don't get this at all. Why? But they do it, and no matter what I say, no matter how reasonable I think I'm being or how factual I think I am, they still do it anyway. No matter how much information I've provided, that it's not worth their time. But but as I've said, people are going to do what makes them happy anyway. And I think people largely need to accept that. That no matter what you do, no matter where you go, people are going to people.
Yeah.
And I think
people are going to people, and it's.
And I think the one thing that kind of I want to touch on too is that when people do these things, don't get too mad at them. Like, you went and did this. I hate you. Like, why did you lie to me? You said you were done with that person. You said that you weren't going to talk to them anymore. Now you're back with them. What the hell? Things change, man. You know what I mean? Like, the girls have said that to me. Like, I got a little mad. I'm like, you said you were done with him. Why are you with him again? What the hell? And then like, my feelings changed. You know, I thought it over. I realized what I wanted, and now I'm back with it. I'm like, you know what? Go for it. I'm sorry I got mad. I'm sorry of how I feel. Just understand that I don't think it's right, but I'm not going to debate you. I'm not going to try and convince you that you're wrong. It is what it is, and that's all it has to be.
This is a lot of the things that people don't realize they do subconsciously is when you're given a situation and how you react, how you react to a situation is according to based on your knowledge of that situation and how you think in that situation. Nobody expects you to be the same person when you made that decision 5 minutes after you make that decision. You could say, fuck that guy, I'll never speak to him again, pardon my language, and then 5 minutes later be like, oh my God, I love him, he's the greatest guy ever, I'll never leave him again, all that. But nobody ever holds you to what you are except for yourself. And if you can find the justification in your own head to say it's worth it, like I can honestly justify my own actions for what I'm about to do, and there's like, that's it. Like, nobody holds you accountable to be one person and not another. Nobody holds you accountable to be the same person you were a minute ago versus like when you made one choice versus another. That's just the end of it. And the sooner people realize it, then people won't be happier, but people will be more understanding about why people do what they do.
And, you know, make no mistake, we're not saying that people shouldn't mean what they say or people should lie.
Right.
We're not saying that.
No.
But when it comes to holding someone to something, when it comes to emotional investment, understand that it's incredibly volatile. It's a freaking volcano with freaking flammable objects being thrown in it, right? That's what it is. It can and will change on a moment's notice. We're not saying when someone lies to you and make excuses for them because they changed their mind. We're not saying that. We're just saying that sometimes in things such as this, it's mostly about emotional connections with either friends, family, loved ones, love interests. I get it. Hold people to a standard, but don't expect perfection is what we're trying to get at. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's just that, and then when they make the choices and you get mad at them for it, when you get mad at them for not talking to you or telling you, maybe do some self-reflection and find out, why didn't they tell me? There might be a reason for that. Just saying.
Yeah, that's facts right there.
But yeah, that one kind of hits close to home with me for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I could talk that topic into the ground all day. But
of course.
I mean, like anything else, I try my best to try and touch on every angle, but that, like, we all have things we won't budge on. I mean, at least in my opinion, we all have those kind of things we're not going to budge on.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever they may or may not be. But, yeah, that's me. Anything else you want to add on that?
I'm all good on that topic specifically.
All right. Does anyone else have anything else? That was Golden's topic. I mean, we're open to suggestions. You got us here. We've been streaming for over 2 hours. I might step off for a second and grab a drink and leave you with the comforting hands of Steve's communism because he's a Russian.
I mean, I might leave myself, and you'll be stuck with the comforting silence of silence.
I mean, that's why we have gameplay, or I put gameplay on the screen, so you guys have something to look at or just to focus on. I'm a visual guy. Like when I watch podcasts, I like there being something in the background, audio or visual. That's kind of why I do both. I mean, we could provide background music. I was thinking about that earlier. I just didn't actually get the time to do it.
If you could just get like a lo-fi hip hop like stream in the background where it's just like
copyright.
If we're ever, we can find copyright free stuff. I mean,
I'm just saying that I don't want to get hit by UMG because that can strike my channel.
Obviously, yeah.
Because those guys are stingy.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think this was a pretty overall really good stream. I mean,
I do too. Minus the little bickering that not you and I had, but with the one individual.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, again,
I'm not afraid to mention it by name. I don't really care about that. It's just don't be a dick. You keep your privileges of staying on our stream. That's it.
And we're not saying listening to us is a privilege and you should be grateful. We're just saying that we do this so we can interact with you guys and talk with you guys. But if you're going to insult us, then we don't have to keep you here. But yeah. Anyway, when did Virgil have time to plow? Play Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, you'll find out. Or watch the cutscenes, either way. My suggestion, watch the cutscenes and save yourself some money. Still look at the game, though. It's a good game, but if you're strapped for cash, then, just do that.
Watch cutscenes, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love watching video game cutscene compilations. Like, I just rewatched, all of Darksiders 1 and 2. Because I'm playing the third one. So I'm trying to get myself reinvested in the lore. I don't know if you've ever played those games or hack and slash games, too.
I never played any of those games.
They're good. I actually think you enjoy them because they're very story driven. And they're puzzle.
Didn't you bought the original Devil May Cry for, let's say it was PlayStation 2 like a year ago, and I bought some other game.
Oh, you bought Megacell for me.
Right. And we couldn't get the PlayStation 2 working. I remember that.
So no, hold on. I don't have a PS2. I have a PS1. I was running the Devil May Cry PS2 version off an emulator on my computer.
Okay.
That's what
I still have to send you that Xbox.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I got you the Xbox and the game.
Yeah, I'll probably send the Xbox to you over spring break. So
gotcha.
That's next week. So, but
Resident Evil 2 Remastered. I was thinking about streaming that, but I don't know, man. I'm kind of like Jeff. I'm a little bitch with horror games sometimes. So
you are a little bitch.
I know. Leave me alone.
Never.
You want praise for passing your driving test? Congrats. Now go buy yourself a Prius.
I mean, buy yourself something faster than.
He actually wants a Prius. That's why I said that.
Oh, wow. Well, don't do that to me. Priuses aren't good vehicles.
Please explain why. There was something I remember you brought up to me about their fuel efficiency that goes against the fact that it gets such good gas mileage, the fact that it's more harmful to the environment than good.
Over the course of about 7 to 10 years, the lithium-ion battery, or the battery that is in the regenerative braking system that they have in the Prius, if you keep it for a certain amount of years, it can be truly beneficial for the environment, and it's better for the environment. But if you don't keep it for that X amount of years, like if you lease a Prius, you're not doing the environment any good. But I mean, I'm just saying, people remember me when I say, hey, you remember that time $1.30 in this car? Yeah. Hey, remember that time I got 50 miles per gallon? No. You get 50 miles per gallon, I get laid. That's just facts.
Wow. I wasn't going to go there. Yikes.
I'm just saying, it's a go-to thing with the Prius, okay? I will drop memes in chat. But no, Priuses aren't really awful vehicles. I've never driven one, but I know people that have them, and they say they're not that crap. So I have no reason to talk. I just like being an asshole. I like fast cars, not efficient cars.
Yeah, same here. I mean, but I bought a Focus for reliability and because it was, well, not reliability too much. It's got another recall on it, but it was cheap.
Yeah, I still have recalls on my Fusion too. I'm planning on getting a Charger next.
I would want to get a Charger, but I'm thinking about what I want for my next car. I'm thinking about getting a Charger or a Mustang.
I'm probably either getting an Infiniti Q50 all-wheel drive, twin turbo 6, or a 5.7 V8 Charger. And the Charger's kind of calling my name.
Mine's a Mustang, honestly, because I know people make fun of people who own Mustangs with V6s, but you can't deny, dude, the new ones sound so good.
Oh yeah, my problem is that I need 4 doors. I need 4 doors still because I have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna consider all the options when especially when I'm moving around a lot. Jokes on you, I don't want to get laid. Well, fair enough.
Oh my god. Well, you got me beat there.
I mean, I just imagine like a little kid driving a Prius. He's just like, where are you going? I'm on my way to fuck your bitch.
Yeah. All right. I think we can call this stream good for tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Looks like we kind of run everything to the ground. No one has any more suggestions, and I kind of want to go make some food anyway. It's 12:30
here on my side of the country, so I'm about to just chill and I'm gonna relax.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some food.
All right, it's been good stream. Good talking to all of y'all, and we'll see you next Saturday.
Yep. Well, have you any suggestions? Hit me up on our social medias. Links in the description below. So if you want to reach us, it's the best place to do it. You guys know me anyway with topics. But yeah, it's been Aaron Martin and Steve Parra.
See ya.
Bye.